Get started. Good evening. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is 5:30 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. This meeting is officially open with a quorum present. The following board members are present in person and or virtually, and I will now call on each of their names in the order of their districts. District 2 Trustee Toby Jackson.
Good evening, President Ramos.
Good evening. Good to see you, Trustee Jackson. Next, we have District 3 Trustee Quentin Phillips.
Good evening, President Ramos, President and representing District 3.
All righty, thank you, sir. District 4 Trustee Daphne Brookins.
Good evening, President Ramos. This is Daphne Brookins representing District 4.
All right, good deal. And next we've got District 5 Trustee CJ Evans.
Good evening, CJ Evans, present.
Thank you. Next we have District 6 Trustee Ann Dar.
Good evening, President Ramos. This is Ann Dar representing District 6.
Good deal. Next we have District 7 Trustee Norman Robbins.
Good evening, President Ramos. This is Norman Robbins representing District 7.
Good deal. Next we have District 8 Trustee Anaya Lebanos.
Good evening, President Ramos. Anaya Lebanos, representing District 8.
Okay. And District 9 Trustee Ashley Paz said she would not be able to join us tonight. And I am Jacinto Ramos Jr. representing District 1. Moving on to the next part, on March 16, 2020, Governor Abbott temporarily suspended certain open meetings requirements imposed by the Open Meetings Act to slow the spread of COVID-19. This action permits meetings subject to the Open Meetings Act to be hosted by telephone or video conference. This meeting is being broadcasted live via Spectrum Charter Channel 192, the Fort Worth ISD live channel on YouTube, and a link provided in the agenda. In accordance with those suspended rules, we certify the following. Notice of this meeting has been posted for at least 72 hours. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance and at this meeting by video conference or telephone call. We are meeting by use of Zoom software application, which allows two-way communication for members of the public. As we would at any in-person meeting, members of the public who have followed the instructions on the meeting notice for registering to speak during public comment portion will be unmuted for 3 minutes to speak. All other meeting procedures will adhere to board adopted procedures to the extent practicable. An audio recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. We apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate unprecedented conditions. And finally, if you have any questions about these suspended laws, please contact the Office of the Attorney General at 888-672-6787 or by email at toma@oag.texas.gov. We will now move to our pledges, which will be led by Mr. Clint Monk.
Thank you, President Ramos. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. At this time, we will now hear public comment. Let me remind you that because of the restrictions by the Texas Open Meetings Act, board members may not engage in a verbal exchange about a subject that has not been posted. We will listen and take notes, but the board is prohibited from responding to any inquiries made during a board meeting on any topic not posted on the agenda. However, the board may reply with a statement of specific factual information given in response to the inquiry, a recitation of existing policy in response to the inquiry, or direct the person to visit with staff about the issue. While the board listens to concerns of a general nature, speakers should refrain from mentioning names of individual employees or public officers during their comments. Any employee, parent, or other member of the public is asked to comply with the appropriate grievance policy to have a complaint heard pursuant to the applicable board policy. No presentation may exceed 3 minutes unless the speaker has prior approval for additional time because of the use of a translator. Speakers who require the assistance of a translator are permitted double the allotted time of speakers who do not require the assistance of a translator. Furthermore, a speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another speaker. I ask that you please observe these rules for the purpose of effectively accomplishing the business of the meeting in a timely manner. Because we are utilizing an online platform, all speakers will be announced to speak in the order they signed up. Mr. Clint Bond will announce the speaker's name, and at that time, his or her microphone will be unmuted for 3 minutes. Before making your comment, please state your name and then proceed with your comment. At the end of 3 minutes, your microphone will be muted. Mr. Bond, would you please call on our first speaker?
President Ramos, our first speaker this evening is Stephen Poole. Mr. Poole, are you ready?
Yes, sir, Mr. Bond. Thank you.
You may begin, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Ramos, members on the board, and Dr. Scribner. I'm Stephen Poole with UEA. Pretty shortly, teacher contracts are going to be issued, and you're going to ask teachers to sign them and return them to you to commit to you for next school year. But your teachers and staff have a lot of questions, and I think deserve some answers before they sign those contracts. The first question they're asking is, what will school look like next year? Will it be in person? Will it be virtual? Or will it be both? And how will that impact their classrooms? Will they be teaching in person only? Will they teaching virtual only? Or will the expectation for them to continue to do both? And they're seeing their colleagues being told right now that positions are being cut and they're going to have to shift around within the school or to different schools. Programs are being cut, like fine arts in our secondary classes. So how will those position cuts affect their class sizes? Will they be teaching 30, 35, or 40 in a classroom? All of these questions are being asked, but they're not getting a lot of direct answers just yet. And I know school districts like yourself and others are awaiting some guidance from TEA. And until we get that guidance from the state, we may not have definitive plans. But your teachers and staff want to hear from you exactly what is your plans right now and when will they be finalized for next school year. And of course, if there's anything I can do to assist, I'll be glad to help in this endeavor because I know it's big work and big decisions need to be made, and hopefully they'll be made soon. Thank you very much.
Members of the board, our next speaker is Jonathan M. Garcia, and he has provided the following statement. Dearest board members and administrators, I write to you today with a grave concern regarding the food service RFP 21-063. My concern stems from the unexpected release of this RFP after 19 months of what was intended to be a 5-year contract with Sodexo Magic. My concerns were further increased by the failure of the Fort Worth ISD to follow a reasonable bid process, eliminating any of the pre-bid meetings and preparations that would be a standard of a $250 million contract, and only allowing a 22-day turnaround for vendors to respond. Never in my entire career as a food service professional have I witnessed such a deliberate short RFP process for what is considered in the marketplace a mega food service contract. This intentional decision to ramrod this RFP clearly raises concerns as to why. And so I respectfully ask you to consider asking the following questions. What was the material cause that led to the premature termination of the Sodexo Magic contract? Was it due to the district becoming aware that a lobbyist had been hired by Sodexo Magic for the 2018 Fort Worth ISD bid process? Was it due to the district becoming aware that Sodexo Magic engaged in the solicitation of a Fort Worth ISD district leadership? Was it due to the district becoming aware that Sodexo Magic was not an active approved vendor with the TDA and therefore Sodexo Magic's bid should never have been accepted? Was it due to the district learning of $1.5 million of charitable donations promised by Sodexo Magic and outside of the scope of the contract? The primary beneficiary being my brother's keeper with a $1 million donation. Was it due to the districts becoming aware of material financial changes to the proposal and contract, namely the increase of the annual guarantee to Fort Worth ISD in exchange for the elimination of 853 child nutrition services jobs? Has Sodexo Magic met the terms of the current agreement? Did Sodexo Magic achieve the diversity spend requirement? Did Sodexo Magic achieve the commodities spend allocated by the state to reduce costs for the district? Did Sodexo Magic implement the food program as promised with respect to student nutrition, healthy options, and nutritional education? Did student meal participation at Fort Worth ISD increase or decrease under Sodexo Magic's pre-COVID and during the COVID pandemic when only 17 of 130 schools were providing meals. In my humble opinion, these are reasonable questions that should be asked and answered as part of the standard RFP process. Most importantly, we do not want to repeat the same mistakes made in the last RFP process. Since the Fort Worth ISD administration has chosen not to address these issues and instead implement an accelerated RFP process in hopes of sweeping this under the rug, it is the ethical and elected responsibility of this board as a check and balance, and the time has expired. Our next speaker will be Bridget Mathis. Ms. Mathis, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You may begin, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Bridget Mathis, and first of all, to Superintendent Scribner, Board President Ramos, and to the other board members. I'm Bridget Mathis, former councilwoman of the City of Forest Hill. I sit on the board of directors of Oscar Dean White Alumni Association. I'm a proud White graduate class of 76, and presently, I am the AVID coordinator and AVID elective teacher at O.D. White High School. As a former council member, I understand the dynamics of budgets, and sometimes in educational budget, department cuts or teacher surplus may have to occur. But one size doesn't fit all, especially when these decisions are being made from the top administration, without looking at what body parts are functioning on a campus. White's AVID program has grown in the past 4 years from 56 students to 217 students this year, with the implementation of an all-male class that addresses the underachievement of our young men of color academically. To surplus a staff member from an academic program that is proven to close the achievement gap of our students, it is wrong and shows that you did not look at the data or it wasn't important. I refuse and will not give up on my students and will do whatever is necessary to ensure that all students at O.D. White High School have the opportunity and access to equitable education. To our board member, you have only one high school and you've failed us by either not knowing or the lack of concern for decisions that are and have been made concerning this upcoming school year. In conclusion, White is more than a school for CTE. It's more than a basketball or track powerhouse. We have students that excel academically in spite of the unequitable opportunities they continue to receive from Fort Worth ISD. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Ken Cool. Mr. Cool, are you there?
I am.
You may begin, sir.
Good evening. I'm Ken Cool. I'm a parent of a Fort Worth ISD second grader. Thank you, Superintendent Scribner and trustees, for your service and dedication to our students and the community. First of all, I'd like to encourage all of you and anyone else listening to contact your state rep and our governor to persuade them to ensure that federal education stimulus funding be immediately released to our public schools. There's no legitimate reason for this funding not to flow to schools immediately, and our leaders in Austin need to hear that. Second, I'd like to applaud our administration for proposing in tonight's agenda the creation of 5 intervention specialist positions to support students, teachers, and families in the area of social emotional learning, or SEL. This is an important focus that our district recognizes, and I hope our trustees will support. So much attention has been directed recently at the so-called pandemic learning gap, but I think we really need to be looking at the social emotional trauma and setbacks to our students and families as well. Our amazing teachers, I'm sure, will hopefully gradually close any learning gap, but we need to support their social and emotional health right now and into the future. And if we expect them to be ready to receive the learning that we offer, these specialists are a great start, and we need even more. And finally, just a note about the recent parent survey that you sent out. I hope that you received many responses and will be transparent with us about the results. But I can say now that the questions regarding extended school year calendar, as it was called, was too vague, in my opinion, to generate useful results. We were asked about an extended school year on the last survey too, and it is unclear whether this was a question about a school year with the same number of class days but with more breaks, or of an increase in total school days. We need more transparency on these ideas and proposals and others like them, just in general. And you need to please trust your stakeholders to consider all the details and ramifications of things like this and include us in the process. You can't condense a new idea or policy down to 3 sentences like that one and expect us to give you a thoughtful response. Please trust your stakeholders with these ideas, goals, and intentions in advance so that we can all move forward with them together. Thank you all for your service. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on these issues.
Our last speaker this evening will be Susan Boyd. Ms. Boyd, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
You may begin.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you to the board and to Dr. Scribner for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm a former parent, booster club officer, and PTA member of Fort Worth ISD. I was shocked on Friday when I learned of the district's plan to eliminate the band teacher at Wedgwood 6. Wedgwood 6 is a highly successful band program which feeds Southwest High School marching band, which is the only Fort Worth ISD band to ever compete in the state UIL marching contest. I've also learned that orchestra programs are being pulled from some schools, mainly middle schools. There can be no successful high school fine arts programs without these middle school programs. They are vital. I cannot tell you the value I place on the importance of fine arts in education, whether it is band, orchestra, chorus, theater, mariachi, or art. There are so many studies out there that readily show the science behind these programs and their enormous benefit in brain and social development. Not to mention that fine art students are almost always the highest scorers on state academic tests, and many serving as leaders in their schools. Taxpayer dollars invested in these programs is not only a benefit to the student, but the district and in cities where these future leaders will live. I myself was an orchestra and choir student. Everything I learned in these programs I carried with me to college, where I participated in performing groups while earning a degree in accounting. I am a parent of 3 sons who've all had the benefit of arts education. My youngest started with J.P. Elder Band and then was a member of the Southwest High School Band. My niece was a member of the orchestra at William James and then on to be a member of the Pascal High School Orchestra and Choir. As a parent volunteer at contests, rehearsals, and football games, I've seen firsthand the benefits of these programs to students. They provide a home for so many students during their junior high and secondary education years. We are in unprecedented times, and our children have been expected to step up and give up so many things. As depression and suicide rates climb among our youth, how can we expect them to return to in-person school without the full set of extracurricular activities that make coming to school something to look forward to? I feel sports programs will not endure such cuts, which is fine for those students, but not at the expense of cutting programs that are equally as vital to so many others. One size does not fit all. Whether it is a particular sport or a particular fine arts discipline, having choices matter. I'm also extremely disappointed to see teachers being treated with so little regard at Fort Worth ISD. They've endured so much over this last year and continue to place the interests of their students above themselves and in many cases their own families. I do not see how making extreme changes can be of any benefit to teachers or students at this time when getting back to normal hasn't even begun to take place. Decisions now will have years of future consequences. Thank you so much for your time.
Mr. Bond, I believe you said that would be our final speaker tonight, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to recognitions. And at this time, I'm going to turn it right back over to Mr. Bond for our recognition, for recognitions.
Mr. Ramos and members of the board, we will begin our recognitions this evening with the Fort Worth ISD Junior Cadet Corps and JROTC cadets, where they have volunteered countless hours of school service and community service to their campuses and surrounding communities, even during the pandemic. During the period from 2019 to 2020, our cadets volunteered over 85,000 hours of service. Cadets have volunteered their time to improve the appearance of their campuses, assist local food banks, remove litter in the community during the annual Trinity Trash Bash and Cowtown Brush Up, visit the elderly and the sick, and in a multitude of other capacities. As one JCC instructor wrote, we do purposeful acts of kindness for people in our community. These community projects and service learning projects provide great opportunities for cadets to bond with one another, enhance team building and friendships among cadets, while also providing opportunities for potential jobs and career exploration. The JROTC, JCC programs in the Fort Worth ISD are under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel retired Richard Crossley. Mr. Ramos, would you like me to continue on, or would you like to pause at that moment?
Yeah, if you would please continue on.
Our next, if you'll excuse, my phone is ringing. Our next is for volunteers and partnerships. Fort Worth ISD is grateful every day for our community partners and volunteers, and April is always a month to give extra recognition to these partners and volunteers who work tirelessly to support our students, families, and schools. The national 2021 theme for Partner and Volunteer Week is Recognize, Reconnect, and Reimagine. The work that our district does every day to educate and nurture students would not be possible without our community support. The generosity, dedication, and creativity for ways to support our students has been especially evident this past year through both a pandemic and an unprecedented winter storm. We realize that many of our partners and volunteers stepped back this past year to stay healthy, but we know they will be back in person when it is safe to do so. During this past year, we would like to recognize the incredible work and support from so many groups and organizations, including all our PTAs, the United Way, Catholic Charities, LVT Rise, Girls Incorporated, our faith-based groups, and so many more community groups. They all mobilized to help our families with food, water, clothing, utility bills, medical care, responding to all requests for assistance, all while protecting themselves and others during the pandemic. We would like to give special recognition to our wonderful partner, the Tarrant Area Food Bank. The Tarrant Area Food Bank has been providing meals to approximately 3,000 families each week since September 2020 at the Mega Mobile Market. Fort Worth ISD has opened the gates to Herman Clark Stadium each week, where families have been receiving a variety of high-quality, nutritious food. The Tarrant Area Food Bank has reimagined their role in our community, and they responded to the last-minute emergency food distributions that have been in response to our families being unemployed or lacking safe living accommodations. We need only ask, and Tarrant Area Food Bank gathers food and volunteers across our community with the highest needs. We thank our friends at Tarrant Area Food Bank for their resources and for their flexibility to serve the families of Fort Worth ISD. Our last recognition this evening is of the Diamond Hill Jarvis boys soccer team, and I think in just a moment we'll have a Zoom connection with them as well. We want to take a moment and recognize the boys soccer team from Diamond Hill Jarvis High School. On April 17th, the Eagles put their 25-4-2 record on the line against Bernie in the UIL Class 4A State Championship in Georgetown. While the Eagles didn't win that game, under the direction of Coach Kyle Riopel, it was the first time a Fort Worth ISD soccer team had made it to the state title game. Even getting to the semifinals was a first for our district. Additionally, Diamond Hill Jarvis senior and team captain Andres Montez was named the Star Telegram Boys Soccer Player of the Week on the strength of his performance in the UIL state tournament, as well as being named to the all-tournament team. Other Eagle teammates named to the state championship all-tournament team are Eduardo Lopez, a senior midfielder, Edward Zuniga, a sophomore midfielder, Jonathan Lopez Sr. on defense, and Ricardo Gonzalez, a sophomore forward. The team was celebrated this past Saturday with a parade through the pyramid. So Fort Worth ISD congratulates the Diamond Hill Jarvis Eagles boys soccer team, their coaches, and all their supporters, including students and parents, for a fabulous season. Thank you, Mr. Ramos.
Did I hear that they're going to be joining us?
That was the information I had. I'm not sure if they're connected. Cindy?
Yes, sir. We are here at Diamond Hill. Thank you.
Congratulations, Coach. Yes, go ahead. We'll yield the floor to you all for a little bit.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having us and allowing these guys to get some additional recognition. They're a special group. We have wonderful young men at Diamond Hill who have been working really hard for years, who had a phenomenal season last year that got cut short, but they persevered through. They continue to work hard through difficult circumstances, and we couldn't be more proud of these young men. They everything that they've gotten this season has been earned because they've worked hard. They've worked hard in the classroom and to keep their grades up, and they worked hard on the field to ensure the success that they've had this season.
Thank you, Coach, and congratulations.
Thank you all.
Yeah, young man, you did a phenomenal job. I know a number of us were able to go out and watch you play, and you represented your community, your family, your heritage, your district. You represented us beautifully, and we can't thank you enough for that. We know that there's a lot of love and support from the booster group. I know you all had a nice meal, I understand, at Capitol Grill, right? A police escort to downtown. All that, as we would say, bien merecido y mucho más. So much love and much appreciation from your board and the leadership here at Fort Worth ISD. Make us super proud. Coaches, thank you for the work and the commitment you have for our young people and way to represent Diamond Hill. We're proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Good up, guys. Congratulations.
All right. Any of my colleagues, anything to state on any of the recognitions for tonight?
If I may, President Ramos, I was able 2 Saturdays ago to drive down to Georgetown and watch these young men play. And on a cold Saturday morning, they did a great job. They worked very hard. They never gave up and handled themselves with class and with great effort and great sportsmanship. So I was impressed and proud that they're part of Fort Worth ISD.
Thank you, Dr. Scribner.
Yeah. And we got to give some love to that principal, Mr. Garcia. He's your biggest cheerleader. If I don't give him love, I'm never going to hear the end of it. And also for the amazing coaches again, right? That there's this mindset that's coming to Diamond Hill that mediocrity isn't going to work. And so, yeah, a lot of love for all of y'all. And good job, Principal Garcia.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to let you know I'm here. I'm very proud of the boys, what they did this year, putting Diamond Hill on the map. This year, there's been a lot of great things going on at Diamond Hill. We've got the softball team and the baseball team going to the playoffs for the first time in a while. We had tennis winning district again. We had track and cross country going to regional. So Diamond Hill right now is the place to be right now. So I just want to let y'all know that. So
that's the Principal Garcia that I know. Thank you, sir. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
On the board?
Yeah, President Ramos, I would just simply say for all the efforts, that were recognized today, people going out on a limb, volunteering their time, helping others, and then right alongside with everything that our Diamond Hill Drivers boys were able to represent so well out there for us. Just simply appreciative, for real. Just thank all those folks that were honored, and thank you, fellas, for representing the funk. You showed them how we do it, and I'm very proud of y'all. Keep up the excellent work. Keep putting us on the map the way you're doing.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. Congratulations. Those trophies look awesome. We'll see you all soon, my friends. Looks like that's all from the board and the administration. Congratulations again. Thank you, Mr. Bond, for the recognitions. We are going to move to item number 5, Lone Star Governance. Dr. Scribner and his team are going to have an update for us on LSG. Dr. Scribner?
Yes, thank you very much, President Ramos, members of the board. As you know, as part of our board monitoring calendar, it is time that we discuss the formative evaluation of board, district, and superintendent. There's not a great deal of new information here. Basically, we're bringing the data together as per your Lone Star Governance Board monitoring calendar. You received this presentation last week, and at this time we're going to hear from our Deputy Superintendent, Karen Molinar, and I think virtually we have with us our Associate Superintendent of Accountability and Data Quality, Sarah Arispe. So with that, I'll turn it over to Karen.
Thank you, Dr. Scribner. Trustees, we're really excited to come here tonight, and some of these slides will look familiar to you, and all of the data we have presented through prior presentations with our board monitoring calendar for LSG. We're going to start this evening on going over goals 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to also talk about our constraints. Just as a reminder, of course, we were leading through COVID-19, the impact. We did start the school year a little bit later in comparison to other school years. You'll see that in our data set. As well as we had a change in our learning environment starting last March in 2019, and we've continued that change in environment with in-person, virtual, and a hybrid model for this entire 2020-2021 school year. We know we have many of our students who have unfinished learning from last year and lost learning time through COVID due to the closure in the spring. However, you're going to see this evening in our next presentation as well how we are closing those gaps and providing additional support to our students. So let's, just as a refresher, we started the school year with emergency constraints, and it really was through our Fort Worth ISD forward document. We started with getting parent feedback with a parent pulse survey around instruction, who needed devices, connectivity, as well as asking who needed support for virtual learning, social, emotional. And we hosted many virtual town halls as well during that period of time. We did make sure we had access to learning through in-person, hybrid, and virtual, as well as we did take advantage of TEA allowing us to have transition week when we started our academic school year. So how do we support our students and families during the COVID-19 impact? And that is our constraint 2 of health and safety. We had meals to go through Fort Worth ISD. We made sure that during COVID into the summer, as well as our students who are and families who chose the virtual option, there's always meal to go service available for our students. And as you saw earlier in our recognitions, we did partner with our community food, Tarrant Area Food Bank, and made sure that we are still, actually, we have and are still having food drives on a weekly basis at Wilkerson Grind. We know we had to not only prevent, respond, and mitigate through strategies. We offered training and support for health and safety practices. We did have protocols put in place. This is all new to all of us across the nation, across the world. We immediately had PPE delivered to our campuses. We changed how we were cleaning our campuses and disinfecting those in our classrooms. We immediately implemented a student employee dashboard, really even before the county implemented their dashboard. So we're able to track our student and our employee COVID cases. We set up free COVID-19 rapid testing through the support of TEA for our employees. And then once the vaccination arrived, we immediately set those clinics and resources up for our employees as well as our families. And then, of course, Dr. Scribner led the superintendent through the Texas Urban Council to advocate for vaccination for our teachers as essential workers. During this time, it was important that we stayed the course. We definitely wanted to keep up with our initiatives. As you remember, our constraints 4 and 5 around our equity policy, we focused on racial equity. Ms. Freed and her team continued racial equity walks and actually continued the virtual racial equity summit. We also did virtual college fairs for our high school students during that time for the COVID impact. And we did in-person as well as virtual financial aid sessions to make sure our students still had every opportunity to attend post-secondary. Around access to learning for staying the course, we did mobilize enrollment and attendance support through our stay in school coordinators with Ms. Breed's team, as well as our community partners with Reed Fort Worth to do porch visits to re-engage our students. We have started early and aggressive pre-K and kinder enrollment plan for 21-22, which we had opened up April 1st. And our pre-K outreach to faith-based and community organizations is seeing successful amount for our enrollment this year already. For access to learning, and as our constraint form 5, staying the course, we have we continued, as we said pre-COVID, of having G6, Glencrest 6, join our leadership academic network with Texas Wesleyan. We have entered into a partnership with Failing Leadership Academy at J. Martin Jacquet Middle School, as well as our Leonard Middle School and Morningside Middle Schools will be leadership academies in 22-23 with a planning year for 21-22. All of these are examples, as even though we were going through COVID, we made sure we stayed when knowing we needed to address our academic needs for our students pre-COVID as well as continuing throughout. You'll see our next slide for transparency and communication. Right before COVID, the board did vote and supported our boundary changes for our feeder alignment. We went ahead and transitioned into our peer feeder patterns, as well as were successful with our 2020 TRE for compensation, security, and connectivity. And then, of course, we all experienced in the state of Texas our winter storm emergency that happened in February, and our response and recovery through transparency and communication was very important to make sure that our students were continuing learning, but that our schools and were recovered to be able to welcome our students back for in-person instruction. Of course, during COVID-19, our district pivoted to a very intense social emotional learning. We started with a survey for our teachers and students through a survey through Panorama. We needed to know how our teachers were feeling, how our students were feeling. We had an excellent response rate. 66% of our students responded to the survey, as well as 81% of our teachers responded. You know, we asked our students about their SEL experiences, their relationships, engagement. We asked our teachers about their work environment, professional relationships, and feedback, equity, diversity, and inclusion. These were very important topics that we knew we wanted to make sure we are addressing once our students return back. What do we do with that information? We have started already training our staff, our teacher leaders, our principals, as well as our support staff. And here on this slide, you'll see dates where we have responded to that through the training. And then we are also embedding that in our campus needs assessments, as well as you'll see those in our CIPs this year when we bring them forward to the board. These are just a few reminders of our constraints that the board put in place. Some were emergency constraints, some are long-term constraints. Just a reminder, those have been presented, I think it was back in October for constraints. And now Mr. Risby is going to go through our goals 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you, Ms. Molinar. I want to start off by with just a reminder that we received as a district in March from TEA, and I think we've shared this with the board before. TEA sent out to all districts to exercise caution when using 2021 assessment outcomes for evaluating or planning purposes. So we are taking STAR this year. We did not last year. But remembering all the things that Ms. Molinar started off talking about, the late start that we had in our district, the change in learning environments for students, and as Mr. Poole pointed out, for teachers, as well as unfinished learning and lost learning time from last spring. So just starting with that little bit of context. Next slide. We'll talk about our assessment results. I do want to give another reminder too about some changes we made in plans due to COVID to help support our students and teachers. We did reduce the number of local assessments this year. We used to do 6 weeks test, and we eliminated those for the 2021 school year to give more time for teachers to do their own assessments in the classroom. Our assessments locally for the district, we switched to the nationally recognized NWA test and did that beginning, middle, and we will do it at the end of the year this year. instead of the district created common assessments. And we also canceled the spring benchmark so that teachers and students had more time to focus on instruction. With all the lost learning time, that helped them focus on the instructional framework and increasing that time for quality Tier 1 instruction. This is just a reminder of the presentations board that you've seen, a number of these this year. And so some of this will look very familiar to you. We've had either 3 or 4 times with Goal 1 to talk about the goals and the progress we are making in those goals during this school year. This formative evaluation will just pull some high level data points out of that. And just as a reminder for you and for the audience, those full reports with details and the student group breakdowns were presented in all the other sessions and are posted. So let's look at Goal 1. Our Goal 1 is early literacy. And as we look here, we see the yearly targets that the board set, beginning with the 18-19 as our history and moving forward to 2024. So we can look at some progress so far this year. For Circle Pre-K, Circle, remember, is the test that our pre-K students do, administered by their teachers. We see here a comparison. The blue bar is going to be middle of the year in 2019. We don't have end of year data yet. The red bar is going to be middle of the year 2020, 21, so this year. Comparing here, we see that we had less students tested in English, but a significant more number tested in Spanish due to some changes in our bilingual programming. And given the COVID impact that we just considered, some differences in learning environments as well as enrollment, we feel on track here that we have gained some ground from where we started at the beginning of the year with our earliest learners and should be on track to meet our goals for end of the year. Our next one that we'll look at is our MAP reading fluency. This is for students in K through 3 and looks at that specific reading skill of fluency. So these are our annual goals that you see before you. And then let's look at our progress as of middle of the year on key fluency indicators for MAP. And you can see here in each grade level, K, 1, 2, and 3, we're almost where we were last year, despite the fact that we started school later this year and have had those changes in learning environment. And a reminder to the board that in kinder, that key indicator we look at is phonological awareness, so letter sounds. In grades 1 through 3, we look at sentence reading fluency, and we do expect grade 1 to start off, but this is a new skill for them, and then they get better at that skill in 2nd grade and better still in 3rd grade. So we are right on track here with our MAP reading fluency scores. Finally, we have goal progress measure 1.3, which is MAP growth reading. We are really had great response from our schools and our parents about using this assessment this year. This is the first time, and we're administering it in grades K through 8. The board approved this last year. And so we are looking forward to setting our baselines and our goals because we feel like this is providing teachers really great information and parents as well on the progress of their student from beginning to middle to end of year. Next, we'll go on and look at goal 2, early mathematics. Our first goal progress measure, 2.1, is for Circle, the pre-K assessment, and then TexKIA, that's the Texas Kindergarten Entry Assessment, which actually is given beginning, middle, and end. So we have end of year goals set there for those youngest learners in mathematics, as we did in reading. On our next slide, we'll look at Circle by itself. We see middle of year in the blue bar, the orangish bar is the middle of the year this year. And again, we're very close to where we were last year with English. The Spanish, there is a 10-point difference, but you'll notice there's a huge difference in the number of students tested. So a very small, high-performing group tested last year. It was optional. All of our students in Spanish tested this year, and they're close to their English counterparts. So we think that we feel that they are on track and are regaining some of that ground that they may have lost. In Goal Progress Measure 2.2, look at MAP growth here for mathematics. The goal is set for early learning, so it's 1 through 3, but we're going to look at all the grade levels. We want to look at all the way through 8th grade. So on the next slide, we'll see A little bit of difference here between the grade levels. So I want to call that out to you. You'll notice that in grade 5, 6, and 7, more the middle and upper elementary grades, we're very close to where we were this year, despite all those changes we've talked about a number of times. So we would say that at about half the grade levels, we look pretty well on track to gaining some of that ground. You will see bigger differences in our early learners. So 1st through 4th grade, bigger differences compared to last year. We are not on track with where we were last year, but I also want to point out that we were almost at our goal last year. We had extremely high MAP scores last year in our early grades, and we're doing really well considering that our goal for the year was 65%, and we were there at mid-year in 1st through 3rd grade. So this year we are seeing less in math, but we also are trending with the national average. So I think that we talked about this when we did the full presentation, but just a reminder to the board that in reading, the gains nationally or the changes nationally were not as great as they were in mathematics. Reading is a skill that you learn and you build upon each year. You don't really learn new skills, you just polish on what you're doing. Mathematics, on the other hand, introduces new skills at each grade level. So we might start off with addition, subtraction is a new skill, multiplication is a new skill, and we add those. And so there is a lot of new learning in mathematics every year. We're watching this closely. Our math teachers are working with our students, and we know that teachers have had to adapt with both virtual and in-person students, and that's been especially challenging with our young learners. So this is something that we will continue to work toward as we get our end of year scores, but we're given kind of a mixed on track signal for this one. Finally, in mathematics, we have goal progress measure 2.3, and that's for kindergarten. And board, you will remember that kindergarten just started with the mathematics part of MAP growth this year, so we don't have a year-to-year comparison there. But we'll be setting some baselines once we have a full year of data. Finally, let's look at goal 3. This is our college, career, and military readiness goal. The first goal progress measure under that is 3.1. That's our grade 12 students who are on track and meeting the criteria for college, career, and military readiness as defined by the state for state accountability. So we have our yearly targets there, and we see that despite the pandemic last year, we were well above the target for the year. Let's look at the goal progress measures there. 3.1 is the first one. This is our 12th grade students who are on track. So in order for graduates to meet the mark, we need 12th graders to be prepared to step up to become those graduates. So we see that despite COVID and some of the many interruptions we've talked about, we're 3 points ahead of where we were this time last year for our seniors. So pleased to say that we're on track and ahead of schedule with those seniors, and want to continue to see those numbers go up. On goal progress measure 3.2, this is our 9th grade on track measure, and that little green box there reminds you the pieces that go into 9th grade on track. We saw that big jump from 19 to 20 last year, and we've got an asterisk on that because we did some emergency pass-fail grading when we had the COVID closure last spring. And we believe that that had some pretty significant impact on scores there. So we just want to call that out. For this year, in 3.2, this is a comparison of freshmen who have failed at least one semester of a core course, the first semester of this year. So we don't have second semester or final grades yet. These students still have time to recoup, but at this point, we would call this off track. And then the pink box reminds us that we do have a grade recovery plan for freshmen and other students that allows them to make up assignments or tests where they scored lower than a 70. And students have until the last day of school this year to make that up. So what we're looking at the data for now is our first semester data. And we have students who have already made up some of this in the time that we are now, but they have additional time if they have not yet made up that first semester where they had a low score. Goal progress measure 3.3 is Algebra 1 by the end of 9th grade. This is an annual measure, so we can't report on that right now. And we really don't have a data point from last year because we didn't get to give the STAR test last year due to the COVID closure. The state did not administer STAR. So we will have students taking Algebra 1 next week and look forward to getting those results to share with the board. Finally, we have Goal Progress Measure 3.4, which is our SAT and ACT and the percentage of graduates who score at that college, career, and military ready benchmark on these tests. We did see a little decline there last year from 23% goal to the 20% actual, and that was because of the significant decrease in number of opportunities that students had. When the country basically closed during last spring, that meant students could not take SAT or ACT, and the College Board and ACT did not continue to administer those over the summer or the fall. Many of the sites were closed last year. So on our next slide, this is this year's seniors. They also missed many of those opportunities to test in the fall, but we are still just a little bit more than a percentage point difference. So we're going to call that on track with COVID-19 impact considered, given that they had so many fewer testing opportunities during the closure. And we did give this spring the school day SAT and ACT to students at our high schools. That was in March. And so those data are just coming in now, and we'll be able to share those with the board at an upcoming presentation. Ms. Molinar, I want to turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rispy. We're happy to entertain any questions now, or if you would like to wait until after our next presentation, which focuses on learning recovery plan, we're happy to also wait until that presentation. Dr. Scribner?
I would turn it over to President Ramos if there are any questions or suggestions from the board, or if you'd like us to continue.
Yeah, team, what do you think? Just keep going, or we'll keep going? Okay, I'm seeing keep going. So let's keep rolling.
Great. Well, then the next presentation, Karen also, our Deputy Superintendent, will be helping us through that, along with our Chief Academic Officer, Jerry Moore, Chief Innovation Officer, Dr. David Sines, and Doctors Cherie Washington and Raul Peña, our Chiefs of Student and School Support. And we will be pulling up here on the screen our Fort Worth ISD Learning Recovery Plan. We know that 2021, 2022, across the nation and here in Fort Worth will be a year of recovery, navigating our way out of the pandemic and making up for lost time and learning time, but also providing intense social and emotional support. We certainly agree with the point made earlier this evening that addressing the issues of the whole child and all of our staff to support them so they can help support our students is going to be essential. So with that, I will, if we can click to the next slide. On the next slide. The learning recovery, the previous slide, sorry. The learning recovery plan will go over our summer learning, Fort Worth ISD summer launch, and I think someone doesn't have the mute button on. Academic priorities, social and emotional learning, and also our parent partnerships. So with that, Dr. Sines, if you could lead off with our plans for summer learning these next weeks and months that are right on the horizon.
Thank you, Dr. Scribner, and we can go to the next slide. We want to start on this with some information. We know that a high-quality summer program is going to need high-quality teachers. And so in order to figure out where our teachers are, we did conduct a survey in which more than half of our teachers responded to. And as you can see, there's some trends in here that I think we can certainly expect. We are having a school year that goes into mid-June. We're having a shortened amount of time for summer school, but yet you see our teachers stepping up to the plate to say they are interested in serving in summer school and serving our students. And so as we work to design this and continue to design and implement for the summer, we use this information to put something together relevant, but that also that our teachers will be able to support because they also need to have some time to recharge and re-energize for the beginning of the school year. And another thing to notice here at the bottom is, I think overwhelmingly, and which we'll see in the design, is that We definitely preferred a Monday through Thursday type approach for our summer school, and I think that makes a lot of sense considering we need a little bit of time. Next slide, please. In the next few slides, we'll kind of outline the basis for a lot of our programs. Our summer programming will be offered June 23rd through July 22nd. We know a couple of other things too. This has to be a collective impact effort. We have to work together with various communities, with various organizations in order to ensure that our students are getting the support they need this summer. Of course, you see some listed here like the City of Fort Worth, Campfire, Clayton, and YMCA. We're going to offer summer programs at over 80 sites, including our elementary school, middle school, and high school. Next slide, please. We also know that in order for summer learning to be successful, we have to focus on the things that we've been focusing on now during the school year. A high quality instructional program served by high quality teachers, and it has to be evidence-based, and we will focus on literacy and math with an important piece. We have to add a supporting piece for social emotional learning, which you've heard about as a theme, not only for this year, but as we move into the recovery for our students. We know that this will be aligned to our curriculum, and it'll be designed to support our highest needs learners. All the curriculum and the training will be conducted and supported by our wonderful academics department, but with that focus, literacy, math, and SEL. Next slide, please. And this graphic outlines that support system. We are going to offer the traditional opportunities for summer school. We are going to focus on our highest need students, but we know that learning doesn't happen in a vacuum. We know that we have to support our students through this unprecedented time. It's going to require an unprecedented response, and that is built on social emotional learning supports while the students are learning academically. And that's going to be done by embedding it in the content area, and also by making sure that it's not just a course you take, but it's embedded through everything you do within the academic program and any summer school program that we do and support. Next slide. The next few slides will highlight what every different level looks like, and you'll see a couple of themes. First, let me highlight the Monday through Thursday theme, as I mentioned before. And another important piece that we know is that it's an in-person 4-hour program for our elementary students, K-5. An in-person experience for our students that are going to need the support in order to continue learning throughout the summer and on their way to launch into the next school year. This program will be available to all elementary students. Once again, it'll focus on literacy and math instruction with a strong social emotional component. We're calling camp culture with hands-on and interactive activities while the students are in class during those 4 hours on Monday through Thursday. All of our programs will have transportation available, as well as breakfast and lunch provided. Now, an important thing to note that will also be something we use in all different levels is we will do some consolidations. That may occur if it's depending on enrollment, depending on, we have some campuses being worked on for AC service or in construction, so we have to make some adjustments there. Next slide, please. Our middle school program looks very similar to our elementary program. In person for our program, Monday through Thursday. Also focused on literacy and math instruction. We know that is the bedrock of what we do here in Fort Worth ISD, but with this, once again, embedded social emotional learning component as well. And I want to keep highlighting that embedded piece because it doesn't stand alone. It comes together with everything we do in our summer program. We will be prioritizing students who failed math and reading, and then any remaining seats will be open to all students that are interested in the program. And the same tenets are in play here as they are in high school. We will have transportation and breakfast and lunch provided as well. For our high school program, it's also an in-person 4-hour program Monday through Thursday. Okay, so this program will be offered at our high schools based on need. Any student, the one difference here is any student who has failed 2 or more end of course tested courses will be enrolled in summer school. And that's Algebra 1, English 2, Biology, US History. Those are our EOC courses. We want those to be in person. With that is what we're looking to see what our testing will be next year. We're testing this year. We're testing next year. Let's make sure we make up those gaps for our students. In addition, students who fail the EOC test and the course. So if I fail the English 1 course and the English 1 class, but I passed my, let's say my biology and the course, I'm still going to be encouraged to come to summer school because that's an important course that you have to make sure you pass it, to matriculate into 10th grade. Once again, embedded social emotional learning component in high school as well. Doesn't just apply to our littlest learners, it applies to our students that are on their way to college and career here at the high school level as well. Next slide. High school does have a little bit of a different component though. Last summer, we offered a pretty large virtual summer school. And in this case, while we're focusing on the EOC courses for in-person, in high school, we need to make sure that our students stay on track with their credit. They cannot fall too behind. And so what we're offering is that a virtual asynchronous experience for them to recover their credit. This is a pretty typical offering that we do most summers and even during the school year. So it's not new. So all assignments will be completed asynchronously. That word still trips me up a little bit, via Edgenuity. All non-EOC courses, electives, and advanced courses will be offered virtually via Edgenuity. In this case, if a student wants to come pick up meals, and we'll share a little bit more information later, they can do so through our Curbside Meals to Go program as well. Any program that we offer, as you'll see the next two slides, will also make sure to include those supports necessary for our bilingual ESL students and our special ed students. And this slide just highlights some of the other resources and camps that may be going on to support our bilingual and ESL students. K1 ESL bilingual, 2.5 dual language immersion camp, a 2.5 ESL enrichment camp, a newcomer program. There's a robust offering coming from our bilingual ESL department, not only to serve the students that are in traditional summer school, but also specific targeted students as well. And that trend continues with special education. We will have dyslexia inclusion and resource support for all of our general summer programs, but there is specific programs targeted to some of our students that have the greatest need. For example, a 1-week program social skills camp for our students that may have autism, and 3 extended year type programs, one for early childhood, our RISE program, which is reaching independence through structured education for high school students, and also our Boulevard Heights and Joe Kelly extended year programs as well. We will have a regional day school program for our deaf students at these ESY sites so that they can access resources as well. Next slide. As we've mentioned before, this is a collective impact effort. We have to work together. We're not the only organization offering learning during the summer. So we have to engage with them. We will provide training through a team effort, but a lot with our academics department here sitting right next to us, to over 100 community and city of Fort Worth partners in literacy best practices. We want to make sure that we align the work happening not only in our sites, but in those around us to our literacy framework and to the work we're trying to do in order to recover faster from the pandemic. We are opening our campuses to various Fort Worth community agencies and partners, as you've noticed already with all the sites that we're operating. And if you're listening now or watching this recorded and you're a community agency offering a program and want to learn more about how to get involved in this effort, please just contact us and we'll be able to get you some more information. Oops. This is just an example of one of those efforts. Through our 21st Century grant, we're offering various 21st Century learning centers at these sites. It will follow the normal schedule of summer school. But in our 21st Century Learning Centers, these are done by Clayton Yes. That's just one partnership of where we offer different types of learning that will also be embedded and invited to attend our academic program through some enrichment efforts here at 21st Century Learning Centers at these specific schools. This is a list of other programs we're offering. All of our programs are focused on academics, but there's a lot of enrichment going on as well, and they go hand in hand. One example is our Summer Individual Graduation Committee, or IGC. This is for our seniors and need to do a little bit more work in order to graduate, and we want to make sure that those supports are there for them at every single high school. My Brother's Keeper, our MBK STEM camp, that'll be held at the Como Community Center at the Dock Bookshop, and a third site yet to be determined. Our OD Wyatt CTE Summer Camp. This summer camp is really set, and we're hoping that right now it's scheduled to the new edition at OD Wyatt that includes a lot of their CTE programs should be open for the summer. And so we're going to test out some of that new equipment with some of our students that are coming up to OD Wyatt the following year. We will offer a wide variety of collegiate programming for our students, starting with college test prep for SAT, ACT, PSAT, TSI, and this will be in person and in virtual options as well. SummerLink for all of our high school students. So what is SummerLink? SummerLink is an initiative we started, I think 3 or 4 years ago to prevent summer melt. I was like, well, what's that? Well, summer melt is when our high school students have decided to go to college. There is actually a thing called summer melt where they never enroll. And so they've committed, they want to go, but they never show up. So we have a dedicated set of counselors that picks a certain targeted students that may be at risk of maybe going into summer melt. And they keep track of them all summer long to make sure that they do indeed enroll in college. And that's been something that's going on and that'll continue. And of course, a lot of that was virtual by phone beforehand. They don't come to a site. And so we'll continue that work. Our ECHS PTech Summer Bridge programs, we have a lot of 8th graders that have decided in our district now to start college next school year. That is amazing. And so in order for that to happen, we do have to support them along the way through the summer. Our Texas College Bridge is college prep courses for our students to be ready for TSI and to be ready for college after their senior year. A Squared I, a summer acceleration math program, and also our secondary transition camps, similar to the Summer Bridge, but also for 8th graders coming to 9th grade. We want to make sure we start bridging that gap and transition them correctly so they can have an experience. Some of them have been virtual their whole time for the last year and a half. We need them to come back in person to experience their schools. Next slide. This has some information about registration. All 3 levels will begin registration on May 17th through June 4th, and we'll make adjustments as necessary, but we'll start May 17th in order to see the numbers of students we have to serve. As we mentioned, we have to hire teachers, prepare buses, prepare meals, and a good count of the students we need to serve is important in doing that. All these registration details will be available on our website, www.fwisd.org/summer launch, and that's what we're calling our summer initiative. Next slide. Same information for our teachers. We will have a teacher application process, our application deadline, and really what's coming soon, all that information will be on our website. You'll find part of this presentation there, hopefully this evening and early tomorrow morning. And after that, we'll be launching stuff on a weekly basis. So come on and visit our site. And we look forward to seeing you at our summer launch program. Next slide. And this is just some final pieces on summer meals. Every site we open will offer breakfast and lunch at all in-person general sites. What that means too, and after talking to our food service department, is that every one of those sites will also offer a meals to go program, which will be open to all students, no matter if you're attending summer school or not. And that's important. Come grab a meal, come grab a breakfast, come grab lunch, come to the closest school that's nearest to your home. If we have a program there, there'll be breakfast and lunch. Thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Mr. Jerry Moore to discuss our instructional priorities.
Thank you, Dr. Sines. I believe David did a great job outlining our intentionality around our summer programming. This evening, trustees, we also would like to share with you our Fort Worth ISD as a part of our Fort Worth ISD Learning Recovery Plan, our instructional priorities. On this next slide, I believe you will see the instructional priorities that hopefully look familiar to you all. We identified these instructional priorities back in January and have been working with our campus leaders and actually sharing with you as a board during each of our Lone Star governance presentations our actions to remain focused on quality Tier 1 daily instruction for our students, especially during this time of pandemic and this untraditional instructional setting. Today, we would like to talk about our plans to continue to move forward with these instructional priorities. Before we start with the plan, though, I would like to share with you some data. We did reach out to our teachers through a survey, looking to hear a response from our teachers around the supports that we've put in place for their work. On this slide, you will see we heard back from over 3,000 teachers, asking their perspective on questions such as, do you know where to find information in our curriculum that supports your instruction and your planning and development? As you'll see here, over 80% of our teachers responded that they're familiar with the curriculum and they know where to go to receive those resources and support. We also asked our teachers about the level of support that the district curriculum framework provides to their planning and their design of daily instruction. What you will see here is over 60% of our teachers responded favorably to that question. Now, to put that in perspective, 2 years ago, when I stepped into the academic role here in Fort Worth ISD, we spoke to our teachers at that time as well, and our teachers told us that they didn't know what was expected of them in their instruction, that they didn't have a curriculum in place that supported their teaching and student learning. So I think over this 2-year period of time, that's pointing ourselves in the right direction right now. On the next slide, you'll see a few more questions we wanted to talk to our teachers about related to some of the instructional priorities that we rolled out this current school year. The 2 main priorities that we've talked with you about this year relate to the deployment of our new framework and our new literacy framework. Talking to our teachers, you will see that 55% of our teachers shared with us that they are in the midst of learning how to apply the Fort Worth ISD instructional framework as part of their planning and instructional delivery. And then 43% of our teachers also said that they are in the middle of learning how to implement our new district literacy framework. For deploying these new initiatives during a time of pandemic when teachers are teaching in person and virtual, I think that points to a great start, but also identifies opportunities for us to continue the focus. On the next slide, I want to share with you some data that we spoke with our campus leaders about as well. We didn't want to just hear from our teachers. We wanted to hear from those that are leading the instructional initiatives on our campus as well. What you'll see on this slide is we spoke to over 300 principals and instructional coaches, those that are directly supporting our teachers on campus. Asked similar questions. Do you have the information and resources that you need to support and lead your teachers to implement the curriculum? You'll see almost 70% of our campus leaders told us that they did have the resources necessary. And then you'll also see that almost 70% responded that teachers on their campus have the information and resources that they need to provide quality Tier 1 instruction that challenges our students in a culturally responsive, linguistically accommodating, engaging manner. These 2 questions, we also asked our campus leaders their perspective of some of the instructional initiatives that we rolled out. On this next slide, you will see here that we have almost 70% of our campus leaders that told us that they have the information and resources necessary to support their teachers to implement the literacy framework. And just over 80% of our leaders told us that they have the resources needed to support their teachers to implement the new Fort Worth ISD framework. As I said before, data that's pointing us in the right direction and a lot of progress that we've made during this uncertain time of pandemic. But at the same time, also identifies opportunities that we can continue the focus, why we need to continue the focus, and areas that we can continue to support our teachers. If I can, I would like to start off with our plans for learning recovery that relate to professional learning and the development of the capacity of our teachers. You've heard me share for the last couple of years that we're working on aligning our instructional coaching initiative. We had 7 different instructional coaching directions in the last in the past few years. We have now aligned our instructional coaching under one common model, and we do have job-embedded professional learning from both campus-based coaches and district-level content coaches. This coach support that we are providing in an aligned manner is tiered to the support of the campus. We've looked at our school performance framework, and we have provided these supports to the campuses based on tiers 5 and 4 campuses, having the highest priority, and then moving up the tiers to provide the needed support for the students in the campuses. We also will remain committed to professional learning communities in all of our schools. It's been a priority for the last several years. It will remain a priority as we move into 21-22. We will make an adjustment to our expectations in these professional learning communities. This past year, there's been a heightened need for teachers to be able to plan, trying to prepare for environment. This next year, we want to make sure that our teachers are focused on their learning, focused on making sure that we're developing their skills during this professional learning time. You heard us share earlier when we were reviewing our Lone Star governance data, that MAP remains a priority in our district assessment planning. You will see here when it comes to MAP reading fluency and MAP growth, those progress monitoring assessments we have in K through 8 and literacy and math, that we're continuing to work with our principals, our instructional coaches, our data analysts, our assistant principals, and then they in turn turn this training around directly to the teachers on their campus, so that we are working directly with leaders on our campus that know our students, that know the needs of our campus, and providing ongoing training to support not only how we are utilizing this data, but how we're responding. We will continue this type of support through the NWEA organization, who is the parent company for the MAP assessment. We also have campus-based professional learning plans that are going to align with our campus and targeted improvement plans for next year. As you will remember, we have adjusted our expectations to flex learning to be able to give principals some of our flex learning time to stay focused on campus-specific professional learning objectives. We're asking our principals to outline a solid plan for their teachers that connect to their campus improvement. And then finally on this slide, we are investing in our middle school and high school department chairs. One of the things that we want to do is build our teacher leaders and build our teachers in the ability to lead each other and to lead with their peers. Our content executive directors will be leading teacher leadership academies for our department chairs in middle and at the middle and high school level, so that they can in turn continue to work with our teachers. On the next slide, continuing with our professional learning space, you've heard us talk about House Bill 3 reading academies, state-required reading academies that we launched this year. As a reminder, Fort Worth ISD is an approved provider with TEA. We are providing reading academy training here in-house. Our Fort Worth ISD staff is developing our Fort Worth ISD teachers to implement our literacy model through the framework that the state has outlined, embracing the science of teaching literacy. This year, 52 campuses participated in our reading academies. That was our tier 3, 4, and 5 campuses. Within those campuses, 940 participants are currently enrolled. 671 are participating in English pathways, while 269 are participating in bilingual pathways. We're providing reading academy training to support to implement our literacy framework in both languages of instruction, English and Spanish. And then we will have 27 tier 1 and 2 campuses that will come following this first group next year in 21-22 and participate in our reading academy. A little additional information about our reading academies. 47 of our 52 principals are participating this year in reading academies. Three of the 52 principals started the year but have resigned or retired. The 5 that are not participating right now did not register and participate, but we will be able to recover those principals in next school year when we have the next round of reading academy. The state does not require assistant principals to participate in reading academies, but we did encourage in year 1 for our assistant principals to participate. You will see 37 of our assistant principals took it upon themselves to learn with their teachers this year and are participating in reading academies. We will provide that support for the remainder of our assistant principals in the elementary space. Remember, these academies are focused on K-3. And then finally, 64 of our 73 campus instructional coaches are participating in reading academies this year. That is not a state requirement. That is an extra requirement that we have asked of our staff here in Fort Worth ISD, so that our instructional coaches are learning alongside our teachers as well. On the next slide, I would like to share with you some of the academic supports we are enhancing for next school year, 21-22. As we shared, we rolled out our literacy and biliteracy framework this past year. Our data is trending in the right direction for our teachers grasping the expectations in this instructional framework. We'll continue for this to remain a focus in the work that we do with our teachers for next year and in the future. Our campus-based instructional coaching support, as I shared earlier, has taken a tiered approach where we've aligned to our school performance framework, providing these supports to our campuses in greatest need, our tier 3, 4, and 5 campuses. We will continue to deploy the resources to our campuses following the school performance framework to the greatest extent of our resources. We also have new instructional resources at pre-K and the secondary ELA area. These are additional resources, additional training, and additional instructional materials that will be in the hands of our teachers next year to enhance their instruction program. And then at the kindergarten and first grade level, we are looking at a curriculum redesign. There's actually a board agenda item on the agenda this evening asking for additional resources for K through 1 so that we can really enhance the instructional expectations at our earliest grade level. I wanted to provide this slide so that there could be an overview of the literacy supports that we have in place for K through 8. We spoke earlier this evening about our assessment plan. If you'll go across the first line that states assessment, you will see the assessments we're remaining focused on for the different grade levels. Our circle assessment, CLI, of course, is our pre-K readiness assessment that we will administer, with the Texas kindergarten entry assessment being our kindergarten assessment. We are adding to that our MAP growth and MAP fluency. And that does happen in the dominant language of the student's instruction, so in English or in Spanish. You will see MAP growth and fluency will remain our focus as our assessments. We have narrowed the focus of our assessment. We stay tied to the nationally normed assessments that we have intended. Under intervention materials for support for literacy, I would like to call out the support that we have for the K through 8 space, being Lexia. If this board will remember, we piloted Lexia as an intervention resource in certain elementary campuses this year and in our middle schools. We're going to expand that work this following year in 21-22 for all elementary and middle school campuses. And then I will call out here, and actually Trustee Loibanos, in connection to some of our recent conversations, we have an RFP out right now for Spanish resource materials as an intervention resource in that K through 5 space. We are bringing to the board on May 25th the results of that RFP for some additional resources for our Spanish instruction. Finally, on literacy supports, our district-wide supplemental resources as part of literacy. We need to make sure that we have quality resources for the teaching of phonics in our classrooms. You'll see NIHouse as a resource that's identified here. This is a resource we've used with our teachers. Many of our teachers are trained. We're going to continue the support of NIHouse phonics materials in our classrooms for K through 8. And then here we will also have Spanish resources as a part of that RFP I described to you to support phonics instruction for all of our elementary grades. To talk a little bit about middle and high school literacy supports, we're in the process of redesigning our Reading 1 and 2 curriculum. This is for struggling readers at the high school level, really providing a more responsive curriculum for our high school teachers to be able to work with students who are below grade level in their reading ability at the high school grades. We're in the process of adopting a new curricular resource in Reading 1 and Reading 2, along with foundational literacy supports for our adolescent learners, really addressing what reading looks like in that high school space. We've been working with our structured literacy in 6th and 7th grade and using some of our literacy interventions as a part of our instructional plan there. Then we also have a new adoption in our high school curricular materials. That's addressing English 1 through 4 at the high school level, as well as AP courses. There's actually a board agenda item tonight on the agenda to approve our recommendation for new literacy materials at the high school. I would like to point out as a part of the presentation that Ms. Arispe spoke to earlier, an initiative to respond and engage our students at the high school level, a high school freshman academic support process. We are looking at responding to the 41.9% of freshmen who have failed one core course by the end of the first semester, so that we make sure that we have a plan to keep freshmen on track when they enter our high schools and keep them on track throughout the entire high school career. It's a freshman success team approach at all of our high schools, where every student that enters a high school at freshman will have an adult on campus that knows who they are, will know where they are academically, socially, emotionally, and we'll be able to keep track of that student so that we have a greater opportunity to make sure that we don't lose any of our students throughout their career. What we know is that a student who is on track in 9th grade and remains on track is much more likely to graduate in 4 years than a student who gets off track that first year of high school. This will be a national freshman success institute that we have, and we will have freshman success coaches that we're providing at the high school level to support our campus in this initiative. I would like to point out some enhancements that we're making to our campus improvement planning process, really taking an equity-centered focus on the plans that our campus leaders are making to impact instruction at their schools. We're redesigning that campus improvement plan right now. Our performance objectives are actually going to reach out and not just be general objectives. We're actually going to name race and program supports at each individual campus. So campus leaders will have an individual plan for different content areas, but will also look at their areas of most need and call out specific actions to take to improve the performance of our students. The campus needs assessment is focused on data-informed practices and addressing priority groups. Our racial groups, our English learners, specific program support, and priorities and strategies that require evidence-based resources will be a part of the new campus plan. On the next slide, we will also talk about our streamlined district assessment plan. We shared this with you a couple of times now. Just wanted to make sure that you understand that we are reducing the number of assessments we are asking of our teachers. That's being done purposefully so that our attention is on instruction in the classroom and we're not taking away from the time that teachers have to instruct their students. You have a list here of the assessments that we're going to stay connected to, knowing that these are national assessments. You'll see the NWEA MAP assessments that we've talked about earlier. We will maintain 2 STAR benchmarks throughout the year next year so that we are also measuring ourselves with our state standards. And then at the high school level, we will have a collegiate testing approach, either one of the resources from ACT or College Board that we will be using as a progress monitoring check for our high school age. I believe that's the information I wanted to share with you this evening. I would like to turn it over to Mrs. Molinar so she can talk to you more about.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. As you noticed in Dr. Sines and Mr. Moore's presentation around summer learning as well as learning recovery, we have hit on research. We have built this plan around Hanover research key findings as well as other research that you can find, Wallace, Hanover, and many others. You have seen district-wide dosage, as Mr. Moore has explained. You have seen also some recovery loss through strategic partnership, community partners, as well as summer learning. If you look at the area highlighted in the red, you'll see that one of the strategies that we haven't addressed yet would be adding time to our learning to remediate student learning loss. So this is something that we are still researching and discussing, and we'll bring back, of course, in front of the board just after we get more feedback. But we want to share with you just a little glimpse of some of the things that our stakeholders have been sharing, and as well as some of our teachers asking questions and some of our other partners. How does Fort Worth ISD compare to our area district? Normally, we do compare ourselves, of course, to big other urban districts, but tonight we want to share with you just in the Metroplex, because we do have teachers. When our teachers decide to come to us, they're coming from a neighboring district usually, or if they decide to leave us, they go to a neighbor district. You'll see Fort Worth ISD that we currently have we paired with Hearst of Euless Bedford for the least amount of instructional minutes in a day. And you'll see where Crowley ISD has 465 minutes daily. If we compared ourselves to Crowley ISD by adding 30 minutes to our instructional day, times how many days our students are in school, it would equal 5,220 minutes, which would be up to 12 additional school days. That's not going 12 days longer, that's just adding 30 minutes to each day. However, when you look at the next slide, asking our teachers, not just our teachers, this impacts our custodians, it impacts actually the entire district to support 30 additional instructional minutes a day. I listened to what our public comment speaker said about the parent pulse survey as well as the teacher survey. And this is not something we're even bringing before the board tonight for a decision, but these are things that we are exploring because it does have research base. But there is a budget impact. We would not add 30 additional minutes without compensating our employees for that. So that would be a budget decision that we would need to discuss as a team, as a team and the board, as well as get feedback from our partners, including our internal stakeholders. The other one is the extended school year calendar. That one was in our parent survey. You'll see that question there. Would you be interested in your child participating in extended school year calendar? We did have close to 2,600 parents say yes, and we also had close to 7,000 of our parents say no. However, when you look at that parent survey, which we're going to touch on later in this presentation, when we have close to 80,000 students, we're not really gathering a good parent set of feedback at this point. We asked our teachers, because you have to have your teachers be willing to work at a campus with an extended school year calendar. And the response on the teacher survey, we did have 543 say yes, and then we had close to 2,300 who said no, they would not be interested. Now, we have not provided a lot of details because this isn't something that we want to design in isolation. If this is something that as the district we decide to move towards identifying campuses with an extended year calendar, we would want to do that with the parent, with the teachers, with the community, and we would want to design that together and come and get a lot of feedback. So of course that would also be a budget impact because when you're doing extended year calendar, you're adding up to 30 days, and that would be, they would need to be compensated as well. We have other options we are exploring when we talk about adding additional time, and we'll bring those back to you. We have already days built into our calendar. We have flex days where our students are not in school. We can offer for identified grade levels opportunities for those students to come to school during those flex days. We also can offer some on Saturdays that are very structured and that have a plan that really focuses on reading and math. And those wouldn't necessarily have to come to a board vote because we wouldn't be changing the calendar. We'd be just offering a different service. So I just want you and our stakeholders to know that we're exploring all options. We are asking for feedback because we want to do this together, not in isolation. And some of these plans we may want to decide as a team to move forward next year, and some may go into the 22-23 school year. But we look forward to bringing those back to you and getting more impact from our community. Okay, Dr. Washington is going to lead our social emotional learning part of the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Molinar. Board, we are most certainly aware of the social emotional experiences that have impacted our staff and our students this year. And research from the Wallace Foundation shares the importance of attending to the well-being of adults who in turn must model and support students. So the research also shares the importance of customized professional development for staff and students. To respond to this, our crisis prevention team has partnered with our professional learning team to provide monthly sessions on personal wellness for our staff. This training focuses on a trust-based relational intervention model, which supports adults and helps them understand how trauma impacts our students. And then it gives our staff strategies to be able to support those students. The student support staff, our counselors, and our members of the equity team, they have all gone through this training. And they also conduct these trainings on campus with teachers to support them. This fall, when students return to school, we provided tools and strategies where students and teachers can easily access the SEL supports on the SEL page in the curriculum frameworks. And then teachers are able to use these grab and go activities to engage and gauge how students are feeling. Next slide, please. Ms. Molinar shared earlier, and thanks to the board's approval, our usage of Panorama, where we're able to use this tool to be able to gather data according to just the assess the social emotional needs of our students and our staff. And as you can see, the survey overwhelmingly shows the need for adults to be supported and centered in order to be able to support and help our students. The survey also focused on SEL experiences, relationships, diversity, and inclusion and cultural awareness for our students. And for teachers, the survey focused on the work environment, relationships, quality feedback, and the ability to be able to support diversity, equity, and inclusion for our students. Next slide, please. Student surveys were provided to students in grades 3 through 5 and grades 6 through 12. Some of the areas that were highlighted for secondary students, they lacked a sense of belonging and engagement, which makes sense since in a traditional setting, secondary school students are social creatures and are used to engaging with their peers daily. The data also revealed that both for elementary and secondary students, they struggle to regulate their emotions. Next slide, please. Survey from both teachers. They would like to engage in feedback and support on student engagement strategies in a virtual world. That makes sense as teachers are trying to learn different ways to be able to teach and engage our students. To support student engagement, there is also a place in the curriculum frameworks where they can engage in check-ins and check-outs for students. These strategies help teachers to engage quickly how students are doing and if additional resources need to be provided to support students. Our campus administrators, our equity teams, our student support staff, they've received training. We shared that a little bit earlier. In this training, we showed them how to navigate and interpret the data in Panorama. We showed them how to use the Panorama resource library to find fun, easy activities to support SEL growth. And we worked with administrative teams and staff to utilize data to target areas of needs to address this year, to be intentional to target one specific area for social emotional needs campus-wide. So we didn't want to just have data, but we wanted to make sure we acted immediately upon the data. So we received data from the survey, and this week, our teams contacted over 1,600 families. They were contacted by our campus nurses and our counselors to reach out and ask what type of supports might be needed. And additional from that survey, the responses were generated, over 85 referrals were generated to support the family needs. So I do want to share we're being very intentional and we're continuing the work to support our families through SEL. We will continue to have our SEL portal, our SEL Google site, our equity team SMORE page that supports SEL resources, and ongoing PD offerings to support self-care and emotional regulation. This will continue throughout the 21-22 school year. And next, I will turn it over to Dr. Pena to talk about parent partnerships.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Board, over the last few meetings, I've shared with you the efforts to re-engage and reconnect with our families as it pertains to family engagement and parent partnership. Today, I'd like to share with you a strategic redesign of where we're going. As you can see from this slide, to your left, it paints the picture of where we were. As Ms. Molnar shared, over a year ago, you were presented with a realignment of boundaries to address the broken feeder patterns. And since then, we've strategically redesigned our pyramids to better support the communities and parents. Also during that time, there was an approach to support schools, both from multiple departments trying to work to provide support to our campuses and our parents. As you can see, we had parent educators under early learning, and under communications, we had family communication specialists and parent liaisons, all doing the efforts to support parents at our schools. As we look at these efforts, we now have one umbrella, parent partnerships, where we can encompass all models of support. As you can see, we can encompass parent educators, family engagement specialists, and also continue to search for strategic model programs that support this work in our newly redesigned school pyramids that are K-12. So how are we responding to this charge? We've looked at our return on investment as it pertains to what impact we're making on our students and our families. Re-envisioning time and effort, where are they and how are they supporting our families and students? And also looking at the prioritizing high leverage actions as it pertains to student learning and student achievement. So as we look at three big buckets, you might be wondering, what does high quality parent engagement look like in Fort Worth? Well, the vision is that we focus on student learning and achievement, as shared by the plans by the colleagues earlier today. Also family well-being, and also a continuous model for learning and developing of children, families, and educators, making our families inclusive as a part of the learning process. So today I'd like to paint a picture of the journey and the experience that our students will have from birth all the way through 12th grade. So during this journey, I'll explain how we will focus on engaging and empowering our parents during the early years of our students' journey here in our schools. During those elementary grades, providing a focused family support through classes. And during those secondary years, really discovering and re-engaging our families during the middle school years where we sometimes lose families, and really facilitating college and career readiness, awareness, and support. So let's start looking at that journey and what it looks like. So again, here's painting a picture for you of a snapshot of what we used to do and how we look at working in the future. So we have parents as teachers serving students of 0 through 3 years of age at their homes. As we look into the future, we'd also look at parents as teachers serving traditional program students within their pyramids, offering pre-K-12 class offerings. We also had part-time family community liaisons at all of our Title I campuses, providing broad support at our schools. Moving forward, as you have heard, we will be using our school performance framework and pyramid structure to streamline parent engagement that is tailored to community and families within those pyramids. Also, having part-time positions is not anything new, led to many vacancies as a result of the lower paid wages in those positions, and were unavailable for those critical times of the year to support schools. So we intend to pilot a full-time family engagement specialist at every Tier 4 and Tier 5 elementary and middle school, plus priority pyramids. So let's take a look at what that story looks like. Here you have our highest priority pyramids in our district, all of which will have a full-time parent engagement specialist to support those schools with the work. We have Dunbar, Eastern Hills, O.D. White with 7 schools, Poly with 9, and Western Hills with 5. In addition to these priority pyramids, we have our 9 priority campuses represented here, which are Tier 4 or 5 campuses within our district. Riverside, Wedgewood 6, Hazel Harvey Peace, Rufino Mendoza, Hubbard Heights, West Creek, J.T. Stevens, Alice Contreras, and Seminary Hills Park, all piloting a full-time specialist. So let's take a look at what birth to age 3 support looks like at these schools. Again, engaging and empowering families, especially those of our highest at-risk students, is our priority. So what does that look like? Having not only a full-time specialist, but also 12 licensed social workers to conduct home visits with over 240 families in those priority pyramids, focusing on screening for behavior and early learning concerns. But most importantly, engaging our families in early parent engagement classes for non-program families, which is a big difference in how we operate. Also, supporting pre-K teachers with the ages and stages questionnaire, which is a beginning screener for pre-K kids. Plus, also supporting with a language assessment survey to identify the best programmatic needs for our students and families as they enter our schools. That journey continues to the next few grades in elementary, pre-K through 2nd. Parent educators will teach weekly parent classes for those who are not in the Parents as Teachers programs but live within the target pyramids. That is a big difference in how we operate currently. Classes will focus on literacy and math, so you're starting to see the streamlining of the conversation between instruction, summer programming, and now, as we move into next year, continuing that thread of instruction. Parent classes will also support children as they transition from kinder readiness to grade level readiness, and that is a focus throughout the accelerated instructional process that Mr. Moore shared, and also continuing to provide support and intervention. As we look at the next journey and the next stage of that experience for our children, again, facilitating enrollment and recruitment and attendance. We've seen the impact that attendance has had not only on our youngest, earliest learners, but on our oldest learners as well. Providing monthly classes, assisting with screening of vision programs, and also coordinating volunteers will be important. And as Mr. Moore alluded to, supporting the campus improvement plan efforts that are streamlined to literacy and math. Many times as they enter the middle school environment, we disconnect. Parents stop walking their kids to school. and we disconnect with some of our families. So a heightened effort will be done to re-engage and re-empower our families. As we do some of our town halls regarding college readiness, many parents are asking for help. What does college look like? What classes should my child take? And so really providing those classes that reinforce steps to college and career readiness is a pivotal part of us providing meaningful parent engagement across all of our schools. Next slide, please. So here's the proposed staff for next year. At the district level, having an executive director, Ms. Marta Plata, with a small team there to support this work district-wide, admin assistant, coordinator, data analyst, one specialist by region. As you are aware, we have 4 regions of support that are really supporting our efforts using the school performance framework. And at the campus level, we'll have the bulk of the support, which will be 12 full-time parent as teacher social workers partnering up with the specialists, and 44 full-time family engagement specialists at all of our tier 4 and 5 schools, including the pyramids that I shared with you earlier. And at all of our other schools, we will have a half-time family engagement specialist. And hopefully, once we get more data for you on the upcoming meetings on how this is working, hopefully we can move towards having full-time at all of our campuses. Next slide. And I just wanted to close with this reminder that Ms. Molinar shared earlier. We will have our parent poll survey still open until the end of the week. We have shared this information with principals, but we would like to get the voice of all of our pyramids, especially our highest priority pyramid, which, as you can see, we need support and help with in terms of capturing those family voices and their needs so that we can better support them and that of their community. So again, complete the survey, www.WISD.org/family survey. And with that, that is our last slide.
Thank you, Dr. Pena. Board trustees and actually our Fort Worth family at home, I hope you see that our learning recovery plan has been very intentional. We not only used research, we also addressed our efficiency study and really trying to make gains for that efficiency study. What's most important is that we've taken the feedback from our teachers, from our parents, around not only our curriculum from teaching and learning, but social and emotional. And now we're asking really our parents to complete this survey. We do not want to work in isolation. We want to work in collaboration. We want to know what plans we need to do moving forward. We really hope that you see that this evening, that we listened and that we designed around the feedback we received. But at this time, we would like to open it up to any questions for the team.
Okay, looks like we've got our colleagues are ready to ask questions or make comments. We're going to begin with Trustee CJ Evans.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Thank you all very much. That was very thorough. I want to work backward. I'm very happy to hear about the targeted alignment for parental involvement that Dr. Pena described, and that parents can get focused help at different phases in their children's education. Next, I am excited to hear about the summer launch opportunity and for our students to have that. I appreciate the tight focus on literacy and math. I don't know if we can regain our lost learning in just one summer, and I hope we can continue to offer high quality summer programming for many years. Thank you all for also looking into additional options like adding time to the day. As a parent, I can say it excites me to know my kids could get 12 extra days without extending the calendar. The Hanover research that you pointed out also mentions looping, and I would like us to explore that. And then lastly, I appreciate you saying that if a school is identified for an extended calendar, that I appreciate you saying that you will work with those parents to create the best outcome for that community.
Thank you. Next, we have Trustee Andar and Trustee Jackson. I did get your notes, so you will go after Trustee Phillips.
Thank you, President Ramos. Okay, back to the beginning of the presentation on slide 10 under Lone Star Governance. It mentions that there are several surveys. There was a student survey and then also a teacher survey. I know that you've presented a lot of data throughout this process, but have we actually seen the results of those surveys from those just those surveys, not embedded in other presentations?
So, Ms. Starr, this is our panorama survey that we put out, and we can send you those links. This one was specifically around SEL only. That was sent out internally, but we're happy to provide that those links to each of the board trustees.
Okay, not this survey on this screen.
Yeah, correct. I'm going back to I'll show you,
slide
to the
10.
Lone Star Governance. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure we're on the same page. Literally, and figuratively.
Yes, ma'am.
With the MAP testing, I know that teachers and principals and assistant principals and staff have worked diligently to make sure that all of our kids are participating in that. I also know that students who are learning virtual can participate in the math test at home, unlike the STAR test. What percentage of our kids are we getting results on? Are we getting results for every kid? Are we getting a result of a portion of the students? Because that affects the ultimate data that we're receiving.
Yeah, appreciate the question. We are getting data on all of our students. When we administered the first administration, kind of in this space of hybrid, being in person and virtual, we didn't necessarily get all students in the first administration, but part of our training that we brought principals and instructional teams together around was needing to really have the progress monitoring of beginning, middle, and end so that we can track progress students are making. And remember, we have a process in place to create individualized learning plans in between administrations as well. And we did a much better job of capturing all of our kids in the middle of year administration. Remember, we still have end of year going. So we continue to work with our principals and make sure we get everyone.
Right, thank you. This is just kind of a side note for a future presentation at some point, but I do know that the MAP test is not a snapshot test like the STAR. So I prefer that we are looking at the progress over a period of time, not just on one specific day between 3 to 4 hour period. However, it is the STAR that we are evaluated on as far as state of Texas is concerned. And so I hope that at some point we don't have the data now because the kids didn't take the STAR test last year, but that we are not just looking at the MAP data, but we're comparing the results that we're getting from the MAP data with the results that we're getting from the STAR data to make sure that the information that we're collecting throughout the year is actually showing up when the kids are taking that snapshot test that the state of Texas requires. So just a little side note.
We're thinking along the same lines. So you are right in track with where we're at. We do have a correlation assessment that we do between MAP results and state of Texas assessments. And that is one of the reasons why we are keeping 2 STAR benchmarks next year in our assessment plan, because we want to make sure that we can measure what we're seeing with MAP translates over to state formatted testing. Okay,
thank you. With the learning, the SAT and the ACT, that was a part of that particular presentation. A lot of colleges, I'm a parent of a senior, and a lot of colleges have made the SAT and the ACT optional this year, which is not a bad thing in my opinion, because it's also drastically, as when I'm talking to people that I know that work in post-secondary education, it has drastically diversified the application pool. And so that is a very good thing. That's always a good thing. But I could imagine that it might make the number of kids who actually took the SAT or the ACT decline. And that was what we were looking at on that slide, was not the number of kids who scored at a certain level or who passed and met that CCMR requirement. It was simply just the number of students that took the test, which is important data, but the number of students who actually scored to a point where we get the CCMR credit for that is also critical data as well. With the learning recovery plan, so this is in the second section. I do some little lines in my notes so I would know where there was a new title page. First of all, I would like to applaud the teachers who have volunteered to step up and teach this summer for summer school. And I would also like to affirm the teachers who recognize that this has been an exhausting year and they need that time to recover. And so, yay for all the teachers. Is the number, you've shared with us the number of teachers that have said they're willing to do this. Is that enough? Teachers, this is a pretty extensive, detailed, rich plan of action with depth. That do we have enough teachers? That are principals having to recruit as well?
That's a great question, Ms. Darn. Yes, since we are hosting at all the campuses, we are going to engage our principals who know their teachers best and who know their families best to recruit more. As you can see, we had a little over half of the teachers respond, but not all. You know, there was a lot of surveys out there, right? And so we do feel there's more teachers in there. Is it going to be enough? Well, that's where we're going to start the registration a little early, so that we can plan accordingly and recruit as more teachers if needed. But you know, considering that last year was all virtual, and of course that plays into it, we had about 900 teachers. It was a different environment virtually, right? So I think that'd be somewhere to work from. But starting our registration early, engaging our principals, we are looking forward to having enough teachers to serve our students.
And Ms. Starr, that's really why we're partnering with our community partners who are running summer programs as well. We want to make sure that we're really casting the net wide and really working with them. You know, we of course are going to ask our teachers, and they are exhausted. We understand that, but our community partners are running programs, and the more alignment we have, the more kids we can capture as well. So we're really excited to just have that synergy with our community partners right now, citywide.
Thank you. Is this plan that you've shared with us this evening, is that going to be more expensive than summer school expenses in the past? And how are we budgeting for this?
You got it? Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, it's certainly, yes, if we're going to require more teachers and more sites, more transportation, it is something that that will increase the cost. We have our summer school budget, but we are prepared to answer the call. You know, this is something we have to, as the name says, we have to launch it the next school year, and we need to provide that support now. And so we are prepared to answer that call with our budget and move forward with that. We have our, like I said, our usual budget, but we know this is going to be an extraordinary time and an extraordinary response, and we are prepared to do that.
And if I may, team, Trustee Dar, and to the previous question that Trustee Evans asked, with the ESSER funds that we certainly hope will arrive on school districts as soon as possible, we will have 3 years and 4 summers to expend those. So it's an opportunity for us to have a multiple year recovery plan in order to catch our students up and make them whole, not only academically but socially and emotionally. So this will be a multiple year plan.
Okay, thank you for that. And I mean, you've all heard me say before that an investment in our students is never a poor investment to make. And so I can't imagine a better way to use that funding than to directly impact and getting these kids caught up, accelerated, wherever it is that they need to be. On slide 27 in the instructional priorities section, Jerry, you mentioned, or Mr. Moore, you mentioned about campus-based professional learning. Can you expand a little bit on that? And is this going to take away flex days from teachers because they will be learning on their campus instead of being able to take a flex day? I know that's a big deal, especially for teachers who are parents with young children who have to find childcare on flex days if they have to be at work.
Yeah. Actually, I think the plan will support teachers to be able to use their flex days. Actually, what we're trying to do is give our campus principals flexibility to engage their teachers in learning at the campus level when it makes sense for the teachers and for the principals. We're actually identifying of that 30 hours of flex time, 9 hours that we'll give to the campus to the campus principal as a part of their campus professional learning plan that they can actually use throughout the year at times that make sense for the principal and the teachers, so that they'll recapture some of their flex time. It won't be learning time that will need to happen specifically on flex time. It'll be something that the principal can direct and organize with what makes sense for each individual campus. Trying not to say it's a one size fits all from a district perspective.
Well, because it isn't. Good deal. I'd also like to say thank you to the assistant principals and the campus instructional coaches and the principals who have gone through the reading academies. This is a significant time investment. That is a true sign of instructional leadership. And so thank you to those administrators. And then, and page 57, it mentioned the district level staff and some of the staff that's being added. All of those positions look like they're necessary. However, I want to make sure that we're not adding staff at a district level while we are cutting staff at a campus level. And I fully support these positions. However, I do not support them at the expense of larger class size or cutting electives or reducing opportunities for students on campus. So I am not sure how those two are, how all of that interacts and intersects, but if we are increasing district leadership positions and reducing the number of teaching positions, there may be a bit of an imbalance, and perhaps we are and perhaps we're not. I'm not sure, because I didn't know who was there before and who we're proposing to be there now.
Trustee Dar, that's a great question. As we look at the staffing for the district, it's actually a reduction of personnel there at the district, with a streamlining of services at the school level that is more impactful. And actually, it is supported by both Title I funds, by a Texas grant, and also by some local money. So please be assured that these monies are not impacting FTEs at the campus level. These are monies allocated directly for parent engagement and parent support.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm sure that we have staff that appreciates that as well. So those are all of my questions. Thank you so much.
And next we have Trustee Brookins.
Okay, I'm going to start from the end and go backwards. So the survey at the end of your presentation, I've seen it on Facebook and I've seen it on the Fort Worth ISD website. And in my district, I have a lot of families that are multi-generational and maybe old school. Are we also sending out mail to let them know about the surveys? If they're not getting it via social media, are we sending anything out in the mail as well?
That's great, Ms. Brookins. We haven't done, mailers. We can activate that. Our survey is still open, and we're even ready to extend it a little longer. It closes on Friday. We have done social media. Our communications team under Miss Barbara Griffith, that she created a video with Dr. Scribner, starring Dr. Scribner last week. We put that out. Our campuses have been doing call outs as well as text messages. But I get what you're saying. Sometimes getting that something in the mail, a little card or a little flyer, could also help us. So we will definitely work on that strategy. But like I said, we want to extend it to make sure we're getting plenty of feedback. And, and you guys are a voice as you're out in the community, and you have a lot of people who follow you on social media as well. So we're just asking everyone to spread the word. We really do want feedback on the survey. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah. Okay, so next question is, thank you for that. How is the Parent Educators Program being marketed? And is this program, again, only on social media or on our website? How are we getting parents more involved in that program?
So there's multiple efforts, Trustee Brookins. Currently, we're re-engaging with families with actual porch visits, phone calls, and re-engaging and reconnecting with them. As we move forward with this redesign of a more strategic approach, it will be multifold, where we involve communications through marketing and making sure that our parents are aware, but also through, like you said, some communities that might need some door knocking and just paper flyers to make sure that they're aware of the new redesign and support services available. And this is where our campus principals will be critical to this deployment and making sure that we're connecting with PTA, SBDM, the site-based decision-making teams at the schools, and that everyone has the information and all the updates.
Okay. Thank you. My next question is back to the reading academies. I saw where we had 5 out of the 52 principals that are participating. Out of those 5, do we know if those schools are like the lowest performing schools?
We know.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We know which campuses they are, and we've already put steps in place to make sure we have supports on that campus. In some of those numbers that we shared with you, you saw the 3 where we've lost principals over the year for different reasons. That's part of that 5 that we described.
Okay.
So we already have a support plan in place for all 5 of those campuses to make sure that teachers receive the learning. And Dr. Pena and Dr. Washington are on top of the support of those campuses.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on the panorama for the curriculum, resources, and support for the teachers, I saw that the teachers say that there was a small group that said that they don't have what they need as far as resources and curriculum support. Are these teachers new or are they tenured teachers?
It's a variety of all teachers. One of the things that we know is that teachers that teach specialized subject areas, some of our more advanced courses, they have a different type of pathway than what we have in our traditional curriculum. So we're trying to analyze that data to make sure it's not just for our core courses or our general education curriculum, that we're meeting the needs of all of our unique courses as well. And so actually that was part of the reason for giving the survey, is so that we can look at how we are heightening the support that we have available to reach all people.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that they do get the support that they need, because this is a crazy time right now. So I was excited to see all the summer enrichment activities and programs and partnerships that we have developed. Because my motto is it takes a village, and the village doesn't stop working over the summer. So we definitely need to keep all of those partnerships pulled in. When can our students start applying for these different programs?
We're going to have more information on our summer launch website, but the main summer school starts on May 17th. And then the various programs, some are by invitation, some will be open to the general public, and we'll make sure that all that is included in our summer launch website, which once again, I think to Trustee Dar's point, will become our summer learning plan our summer learning initiative for the rest of the summer, this summer, and hopefully future summers as well.
Okay. And the information about the summer school, when is that going out, or has it already gone out to the parents and the community?
It hasn't gone out yet. It hasn't gone out yet, and that's information we'll put on our website, and we'll also communicate that through our campuses. We've seen that, as you've just alluded to, some of the best ways to communicate will be through our campuses, and also maybe in some of the ways you've already mentioned as well, to make sure we reach all our families. And we hope to do that obviously before registration on May 17th. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll be hitting that communication pretty hard, so they can know what's going on.
Okay. And I think this is my last question. It's back to the LSG for the GO programs 3.1, the CCMR numbers. I'm excited to see those CCMR numbers that are increasing, because I know that one of the schools that has those numbers increasing is O.D. Wyatt. My concern is, if you are proposing cuts, what are you proposing to bring in to help keep those numbers going up instead of decreasing?
we are proposing to continue some of the programming that we have, even with the cuts that we may be experiencing. We work with our principals to see that the program itself, whether it be CTE, AVID, or advanced academics courses, any of that contributes to the CCMR is supported, whether through a pyramid concept, through a shared concept, where we're even not experimenting, looking forward to providing virtual type experience as we did this year, and maybe share those opportunities from campus to campus. So that's something we'll continue to look at, as Dr. Scribner alluded to with our ESSER funds, as we move throughout the year. CCMR will be how we address some of that learning loss and support for our students in high school. And we will pay close attention to that right now, next year, next summer, and through those 2.5 years that we have the money.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, we have Trustee Phillips. I'm sorry, Trustee Robbins.
Thank you, President Ramos. And thank you for this very detailed information. We've been kind of looking for this for a long time, and I know that it takes an immense amount of work to put all this together, and appreciate all that you've done. Some of my questions are really basic, so I hope you'll bear with me. We have a whole lot of kids that need to take the summer enrichment offerings. What if they don't sign up? I mean, are we going to reach out and grab them, or what?
Definitely, Mr. Robbins. One of the approaches that why we're doing it campus-based, in the past, over the past, 3-5 years, maybe longer, we have been clustering our summer programming. Our kids and our parents are more comfortable coming to their home campuses. Right. So that is our first line, is saying we're going to offer everything at our campuses. Even our virtual students, we want you to come into in-person summer learning. Our campuses are safe, and you hear me say it every board meeting, we want you back on campus. And it's going to start with summer learning, hopefully, for a lot of our virtual students. So by offering it at their home campus, right down the street in their neighborhood, we're hoping that they'll say, okay, we're going to come. Also by partnering with our community members. Some of our students who are virtual learners are actually going to some of our community partners and receiving after-school tutoring, receiving other type of resources and support. So that's why we want to align with them. So if we can't get them in, we want to make sure we're reaching them through that community. We're going to do individual invitations, and we know our campus teachers as well as our principals will encourage them. We can't make it mandatory at this point. However, we can strongly encourage, but more importantly, it's just saying we want you. We want you here this summer, Monday through Thursday. We listen to our parents. They were more apt to do Monday through Thursday. So that way our kids can have a 3-day weekend with their family as well, and our teachers who will be teaching. So I really think by keeping it in the neighborhood and keeping it at the home schools, it will help us get the attendance that we're looking for.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Now here's the really basic part. Can you give me an example of the instructional frameworks and the literacy frameworks? What is that?
Certainly. So, Mr. Robbins, it's really a common definition of what teaching needs to look like in our classrooms. It has two main parts. I'm speaking the instructional framework. We've set out an expectation of what the classroom environment, what the classroom culture looks like. How does the teacher set up a welcoming, culturally responsive environment in which students feel welcome and students can learn? So we provided some detail of what the expectation is when a teacher sets up, here's how we interact with each other, here's what my classroom looks like, here's how students play a part in their learning, here's how I interact with my students. The second piece of the instructional framework is actually a lesson design or an instructional delivery model that's based in an I do, we do, you do model, a gradual release model that says to a teacher, any lesson that you deliver to students, we believe this is the best way that students learn. You're going to model your lesson first. You're going to give an opportunity to think aloud with your kids, to walk them through the learning that they have. Then you're going to give your students an opportunity for them to demonstrate what you taught them so that you can gauge if the student was successful or not, so you know how you go back and repeat. It's just that clear definition. Actually, Mr. Rums, the first time, and as long as I know, that Fort Worth ISD has adopted one common instructional model that says this is what good teaching looks like, so that regardless of who you are, when you walk into a classroom, you know this is what teaching looks like. Okay. That's the instructional framework.
Okay.
The literacy framework is what the literacy block needs to look like, the components that exist within the literacy block. I think you may have heard me talk before about the fundamental 4 components of literacy. Phonemic awareness, so students having a knowledge of words, how words together, word parts, that's a phonics instruction piece.
Right.
Is being focused on fluency. Can I read? Can I improve the ability for me to read words on a page and the reciprocity that I have with I'm reading? How do I comprehend what I'm reading?
Right.
Not just that I call words, but I actually understand what happens. And then finally, it's writing. And seeing writing is not just one component, an isolated component, but a part of your literacy block. That's what should happen every day in a literacy classroom. And so we're working with our teachers through the reading academies to understand. When someone walks into a literacy instructional classroom, this is the time that you spend on these 4 components. This is what these 4 components look like. And this is how you teach a student the science of being able to learn reading.
Great. Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. And then finally, the parental involvement just sounds wonderful. And we've done some wonderful parental involvement things in the past, but we've only reached hundreds of parents. We need to reach thousands of parents. So how many parents do you think we're going to reach with all of these efforts?
Well, Trustee Robbins, just with having a focus on our priority pyramids and having a full-time specialist will really help in partnering up with the parents as teachers. Their maximum caseload by the program is at 20 students. So having that complement will help us extend reaching out to more families. And so once we start getting some metrics and numbers, our focus is to keep our ROI, our return on investment, by measuring and capturing those on a weekly basis. And that's been the charge that the executive director has, is to monitor those metrics on a weekly basis. So once they start coming in, we should see a growth and impact on how we're investing in our families.
Okay. Well, she's a real dynamo, so I'm real encouraged that that we're going to reach a lot more than we've ever been able to before. So thank you all for that, and thank you for all that you're doing. That's all I have.
Okay. Next, we'll come to Trustee Phillips.
Thank you, President Ramos. And Trustee Robbins, I really appreciate your questions, man. I love simple. Simple was good. And you asked great questions, man. So thank you. You eliminated some of mine, thankfully. Alongside that, I guess just general sentiment before even the questions is that I love this. I feel like we're playing offense instead of defense. This is incredible. I like that. I really do. So I'm deeply appreciative. And not that you haven't already been doing those things, but now we're able to really show like this is our attack when it comes to these, when it comes to our students learning. So I am appreciative of that. Quickly on the very first presentation, just one clarification. You know, we had the variables on those goals, X and Y. I just wanted to clarify again, the variables being there and when we can expect those variables to become actual figures. So Sarah, you might have to dive into that one.
Yes, I think that you're talking, Trustee Phillips, about those where we had a baseline. So we have X of Y. Okay, one of them was on map growth reading because this is the first year that we've administered that in the district. So once we administer the end of year assessment, which will end, I believe, June, it goes through June 11th. We'll get those results back. Then we'll have a baseline. We'll use that as our X, and then we will propose some goals to set from that X. That will be the Y for 2024. And those will be goals that the board will set as a part of Lone Star governance. We'll give you a recommendation based on some national evidence from MAP of how that might increase, but you all will actually be able to set that once we have the X for you. And it'll work the same then for mathematics for kindergarten in math.
Yes, ma'am. Perfect. Okay. And so alongside that, so there's a couple numbers here as far as on the actual scores that we have. So as far as our reading scores, reading third grade level scores, are we saying that we're at 39% reading on grade level or 41%? I know we had a couple different. Where are we saying that we are as far as third grade reading forward?
Are you thinking about the goal for literacy, the early literacy goal
Well,
with?
sure. Well, there was a couple of different bar graphs, and it had a couple different numbers, and
Yeah.
I don't know which was gold, which was current, and we had numbers kind of in between as far as this is 2021, 20, and I know
Yes.
we had futuristic goals as well. Like, so where do we currently stand, I guess, or is it telling us that?
Currently, if we were looking at that, the fluency measure, which is a very discrete measure, we have kids at about 61%, but that's just one component of reading, as Mr. Moore kind of named off some of those components in answer to Mr. Robbins' question. We also will have that end of the year map growth. We didn't include that here because we didn't have a goal with it. But I can get you that middle of year. We saw that in an earlier presentation. I don't have it sitting here at my fingertips, but I'd be happy to provide that to you again. That's going to be our best estimate of third grade reading right now is our middle of year map score.
Okay, makes great sense. Thank you for that. And so, yeah. So as we get to that score, I guess what I hope to see as far as even common language amongst us within the district and everything, is that we readily available, memorized, entrenched in our brain where we are as far as third grade reading, third grade math, and then college and career ready. If we know that number, we always know the number we're trying to move, right? And I know numbers dance a little bit, but if we can get that communication piece even amongst us internally, that we know where that number is, and that's the needle we're trying to move, I think we're in the proper direction, and that's the accountability that we always be kind of just trying to focus there. So I guess that's more of a request and a wish list item for us to be able to move forward with that. And then I guess really briefly before we jump into the next one, Sarah, if you and Dr. Scribner, just kind of your takeaway from the first presentation and where you see things as far as where we were with the first presentation.
Okay, let me comment and then I'll hand it over to Dr. Scribner. I think that last year at this time we were, well, no one expected COVID, obviously, but we were so disappointed not to get to take our STAR assessment last year because we felt, based on our middle of year MAP scores last year, that we were well poised to meet our goal, our board goal for early literacy, and possibly excel past that. So it was pretty disheartening to us to miss that opportunity. Obviously, we had to. I'm not saying it should have been another way, but looking at where we are this year, we know that we have students with learning loss, and we saw that especially in mathematics. And nationally, we're trending with those data, and we are expecting that some of that loss will take more than 1 year to make up. And nationally, they are saying that for all districts, especially in the mathematics. So we have some very intentional work and plans based on our summer learning to start that recovery. And our teachers have been working extremely hard to make that recovery start even during the year, and with kids in virtual and in-person learning. When we have all our kids back in person, I think that that will accelerate even faster because we have some kids struggling to learn virtually, and we know that despite the best efforts of our teachers. So I think that we find ourselves in a challenging environment, but we're all rowing in the same direction. And we are seeing progress based on our MAP data, and we're very grateful to the board for the support of having us engage with the MAP data. That's a financial commitment that you all supported the recommendation of the superintendent on. And we can now track from beginning to middle of year and from middle of year to end of year. And so we're not waiting for the end of the year each year to see how we did. We're not surprised about that. Trustee Dar asked about that connection between STAR data and MAP data. And there is a strong alignment study that it is highly predictive. And so we believe this is leading us in the right direction and erasing some of the questions that we had where it kind of felt like, oh, we're not real sure in years past because of those locally developed tests that we were using. We think that we've made a good turn here.
No, and thank you, Sarah, and Trustee Phillips and Trustee Robbins, I think, put it very well with regard to simplicity. We during the 2017 year, can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear
During
you.
the 2017 year, the TEA identified a what-if scenario. In other words, they used the 2018 academic formula to analyze the previous year's data. And we would have gotten a 67 in the aggregate, our letter grade score in 2017. In 1 year, we took that up 8 points. In fact, Commissioner Morath reached out to me on a Saturday saying we were the second highest growth district of large urbans in Texas in 1 year. And the following year, I think the Star Telegram put it, we were tantalizingly close to becoming a B district. We missed it by 0.1%, so we were 79. Now, this 2020 year in the aggregate, we did not take the test as a result of COVID. 2021, as you saw in the previous presentation, will probably offer us a new baseline. Districts should exercise caution when using the 2021 assessment outcomes for evaluating and planning purposes as per the TEA's caution. So from our perspective, we were heading in the right direction. I agree with Sarah, everyone on this team who provided a comprehensive report tonight. We were all very disappointed not to be able to show our stuff in March, April, and May of 2020, but heading in the right direction. A lot of work to do. It will be a year of recovery. To Trustee Evans' point, in multiple years and multiple summers to recover, but I think we certainly are focused on doing that, and I'm confident that we'll get there.
Yeah, appreciate that, Sarah. Appreciate that, Dr. Scribner. And yeah, it's just good to have that takeaway to understand exactly where we really do envision ourselves being, and it does. So during this time, of course, lots of grace has to be extended because the time has been so unprecedented. It does have to be there. We also have to take into account, much like you're saying, the years-long journey we have to make sure that we're where we need to be. And both things can be true to where simultaneously we have the sense of urgency of now, right? And so making sure that we have all of that encompassed in what we're doing. Okay, so moving from there to the next set of presentations. I know, Deputy Superintendent Molinar, you talked about even, kind of the recruitment effort of our students coming back in person for the summer aspect. So, we have some students that are virtual still that will need those supports and everything that we're going to be offering during those summer programs. So if we could briefly, I know you don't have a full presentation on or anything like that, but I would like to at least briefly just hear about what are our safety procedures and everything. One, of course, being there's less students during the summer. So all of the procedures we have will work with even more efficacy if you have less people in the building and everything. But it's some of those safety things that our parents should know as they are considering bringing their child in person for those summer programs.
Mr. Phillips, what a wonderful reminder that when we're planning and we're about the learning loss in the summer planning, we need to not only the social emotional piece, but the safety piece. So I want to commit to you that as we're rolling out the information to our parents for registration, we will roll out what it will look like on campus for in-person. What protocols will still be in place, our PPE, as well as, we're asking our parents who needs transportation. So we will have students who have not ridden a bus since March of 2020 to come to summer school. So that's a great reminder. We need to, as a team, we've got to think some of our kids have not entered the building. So we got to put all that stuff in place, and we got to, more importantly, Mr. Robbins, communicate that. Mr. Robbins is our communicator. So we need to make sure we roll that out as well. So thank you for that reminder, and we will definitely do that, and we'll make sure it's very well advertised to our parents.
Indeed. Thank you so much for that. And then Dr. Stein, you mentioned about, I believe it was during your section of the presentation, about the high school students will have the opportunity for the asynchronous aspect of virtual learning, basically for the credit recovery piece. Along with that, so if there's high school students that do want to come in person for that part, will it only be the same asynchronous virtual offering for those credit recovery, or will we have that embedded as well into what we're doing as far as the in-person summer scheduling?
So the way we're planning it is that we will have, there has to be a teacher attached to those students, no matter what courses they're taking, and they'll be based at the campus. So if a student needs to come in and get support, we are going to design mechanisms for a student to come in and get support. We want our students to have that option, whether it's on live and they feel safer at home, or if there's a safety mechanism we'll put in place to come in and get that tutoring, whatever it may be, ask a question, and make sure they have that availability on the campus side.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. And then, Mr. Moore, as far as, you mentioned, and it got me very excited as well, you mentioned about the redesigning of the reading curriculum, or the way we're going about the reading aspect for middle and high. So I know it's current because you're redesigning, so I know you're still planning out doing everything, but if you could speak to that and what that looks like as far as how that's being redesigned, and then as well, is racial equity being implemented into what that redesigning looks like?
Thank you for that very much. Happy to explain. When we rolled out our literacy framework, we spoke about the fundamental four, especially in our early development years. And when we started talking about secondary literacy, we really started talking about taking a disciplinary literacy approach. So how can we look at literacy not just being instruction in your ELA classroom, but how can we look at in each of our core content areas, teaching our students what it means to be literate within those content areas? What are the skills and what do you need to know about math and science and social studies to be able to read the text to understand what's in there? We're going to continue to support that disciplinary literacy approach, but when we come into our actual ELA classrooms, so focused on reading, one of the things that we haven't had in a number of years is a real solid curriculum for reading 1, 2, and 3, those grade levels of students in high school that are below reading level, that we really need to provide intervention for them to be able to really develop their actual reading skills. That's one of the ways that we're going to do literacy differently at the high school level. In our English 1 through 4 classes, we have a new adoption. It's been about 7 years since we looked at new resources in our high school literacy classes. We actually had a committee of teachers that looked at what are the skills that we're expecting of our students. What are our students learning in English 1 through 4? And we prioritized looking at it through a racial awareness lens. So everything that we're putting in place is really going to put personal awareness, racial awareness into play. One of the things that we have not done in several years is actually had an expectation of our students to actually engage in literature as a part of their learning in the high school ELA classroom. We've been really test prep focused. We really wanted to be core instructionally focused. And we have an expectation that students will engage in specific texts by the time they exit our high school classrooms. And that's something that we actually heard from our parents say, I've got children that have graduated from your programs that have not even read one novel during the time that they were in Fort Worth ISD schools. That's going to be one of the changes. We're going to continue to include support so that our students are seeing themselves in what is expected of them in their learning in all of our ELA classrooms.
That's excellent. I am excited about that and appreciate that. And I guess finally for me, and if you can speak to it, briefly again, I know it's not full presentations laid out for it, but just what excited me to even hear was the equity-centered campus improvement. Just those words in conjunction with one another got my heart fluttering, right? So that's a beautiful thing. If you could just briefly kind of speak to that. And then alongside that, I know we have this breed in the building is with the Department of Equity Excellence be working in conjunction with what those equity-centered campus improvement plans look like.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and there may be others that want to jump in here because that is representative of not just the team that you see sitting at this table in front of you, but the entire leadership team here in Fort Worth ISD. We were very purposeful about what we were asking our campuses to focus on. We wanted to make sure that our campus improvement plans were directly connected to our board goals, to the goals that we have established from the district perspective. But what we know is those goals are implemented and are engaged in differently at each individual campus. We are asking our principals to have one broad goal for how are we addressing each of the board goals at each individual campus. We said we can't take that general approach to get the improvements that we need. We need to ask our principals to dig down and look at the area at their campus that is needing the greatest improvement. And so what they're going to do is they're actually going to call out, what is my student group? What is my racial group that needs the most improvement? And how can you commit to an action that actually says, I'm going to teach differently, I'm going to take different action on my campus to actually get improvement for this specific group of students? So there's going to be a broad perspective with each goal, but there's going to also be a specific need based on racial group, student group, English learner population, whatever is appropriate for that individual. I'll stop there. I don't know if anybody wants to add to that, because like I said, that's really been a joint approach to do things different.
I will share that some of Ms. Freed's team actually attended the principal meeting when they were designing and working together and collaborating with teaching and learning. They were at the table when they were going through the CNA, and we want all kinds of lenses on there. It's I want to reiterate, it's not Ms. Freed's work, it's not her department's work, it's all of our work. Sure. But we're definitely have them at the table and designing a huge part of our SDL work that we're implementing and embedding in. And Ms. Breed's here this evening. I'd love for her to share, but definitely such great partnership.
Indeed. No, I think Ms. Breed's were you about to say something, Ms. Breed?
Can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, ma'am.
I did want to just share that, yes, we did have an opportunity to give feedback on the CIP and Mr. Moore, exactly how he explained it. That was some of the feedback that we gave when we were looking at it. So it is a collaborative effort. We are all there looking at it, giving feedback. And yes, we did have at least one team member that was there with the principals looking at their CNAs and giving some feedback there as well. So definitely collaborative effort with the entire leadership team.
No, that's great to hear. And even what you said there, Ms. Molinar, when you're talking, I mean, yes, it is everyone's work. But of course that department has some excellent experts that really that this is their day-to-day life, right? So I'm glad to know that they're at the table and it is in conjunction with everybody. I said my last question, no, Madam President, but I almost forgot it. All right, so with that being, I think it was during yours, Mr. Moore, when you talked about the principal coach perspective. I think it was about 30% was saying maybe they didn't have the resources or whatever the support they needed to be able to fully implement. Did we get the specifics as to why they were saying they did not feel that support? And do we have plans in place to make sure we offer this? So Trustee Brooke has asked something similar about the teachers, but I know that principal coach perspective was in there as well. So
yeah, we certainly do. In addition to the high level data that we shared with you, we have actually specific comments from the different campuses providing us the feedback. One of the things that we've done is we've really tried to structure the support from the academics division to really be tied and specific to individual campuses, specifically campuses of need. And so what we're going to do is take this was to inform us of the progress that we've made, and to also inform us of where we need to go next year to dig deeper and to provide better support for the campuses, and more specifically, individual teachers and courses or principals that are saying, I don't quite have it yet. I don't quite have what I'm looking for, to be able to go out and have the conversation. What's missing? What are you needing to be able to implement this appropriately at your campus? And so we will follow up with that, and we have that level of detail to be able to follow up.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean, because you can never be able to please everybody, right? But 30-something% is definitely significant enough where like, yeah, that needs to come down. People need to feel supported and feel like they have what to do it. So appreciate that. Thank you for letting me hog the ball. I'm willing to pass it now, President Ramos.
Okay, next we're going to come to Trustee Jackson, and then we're going to go to Trustee Lovins.
Thank you, President Ramos, and I want to thank the team. This is a great comprehensive, I want to call it a project, because I think it's alive and it will continue. Some of the slides I noticed had beginning of year and middle of year, but not all of them. I'm wondering if we could explain the reason they weren't consistent, or maybe I just didn't see it. And if it would be possible for us, since we're in unprecedented times, to see beginning of year and middle of year, if you could send them to us.
We definitely can do that, Trustee Jackson. I think we had those in some of the earlier, more comprehensive presentations, and so we tried to pull the most current information for you, and it may not have always balanced. And apologies if that was off-putting, but we can certainly send you the full packet of those previous presentations that we pulled from.
not off-putting at all, Ms. Rispy, just not smart enough to keep up sometimes. The MAP growth data presented was compelling. I love that data. I'm wondering, do we have a way, I'm going to say it, I apologize for Dandy. Dandy is out of his cage and he is not supposed to be talking right now, but he's going to keep going. Do we have access to comparative regression data to other districts that had the same start times as us? I mean, is there a way we can do that and look at MAP scores of other Texas districts?
We don't have that data specific to each individual district. We do have from NWA a compilation of other Texas districts that we have done some comparisons to.
And to your point with that, we look very similar.
We look similar in many respects. As I said, we can't compare to individual districts, and some of those districts are not like us. It would be great to compare only to districts just like us, large urban. So they encompass any district that purchases MAP. So it could be rural, suburban, and other. But overall, we're seeing comparable trends, yes, to those Texas and to national districts who use MAP.
Great, thank you. And then with regard to the surveys, I know that Trustee Brookins, I think you asked, and Trustee Phillips as well. Were those undifferentiated surveys? So the 30% of the people that felt like they needed more to support students, whatever that more is, was that undifferentiated? Or Mr. Moore, did I hear you say that we know how to find out from the campuses who those individuals would be, and we could drill down, for lack of a better term, and find out what they need?
Yeah, I think you did hear me correctly. While within the data itself, it may not identify which campus or which administrator on each individual campus said what. What we do know is the level of campuses that are telling us they have the resources they need or don't have the resources. And that's part of what our teaching and learning team, that's part of the go forward for that team, is to be able to pull those groups together and come up with a response plan. So one, I'd like to reinforce that the data that we're sharing with you is huge progress over the last 2 years. When almost 100% of our administrators and teachers said we don't have a curriculum in place. But I agree that if we have 30% that are saying I still need additional support or I don't have what we need, our next steps are to really respond to that and have a conversation with our campus leaders on what we can do to provide greater assistance.
And for the 70% that do, that's awesome. And 30% is a great number, and it's a manageable one. It's something you all can handle. The birth to age 3 parents as teachers is funded, I heard Dr. Sines say, from a Texas Home Visiting Grant. What is our sustainability plan on that after it runs out? Because that's always the challenge, is we lose those dollars. You guys do a great job with the dollars. We should earn them for a lifetime, but they go away. How do we sustain the program?
So Trustee Jackson, that's a great point. As we look at partnering up the social workers with a full-time family engagement specialist, really the work is to strengthen that impact. But if we're for some reason unable to re-garner those funds from the state, then we would have those family engagement specialists fully trained and support the campuses with that work. And as we continue to monitor metrics, that'll also help us to see what's working and what's not working. That way we can make an informed decision, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. It made so much sense, it kind of scared me. And on slide 33, if you guys could go back to that, or just remember, it said funding streams support quality and focus on high needs campuses. I loved that slide. It was a great slide. What I want to know is, what's the plan for the criteria initially? So how do we decide those high needs campuses? And we don't have to go into all that right now, but it's just something I'd like to hear more frequently, because sometimes you guys do a really good job really fast and you have rapid acceleration and you need a pivot. And I just would like to know what that plan is, because that tells me one of the zip codes I'm blessed to represent, 76105, that's the most impoverished in Tarrant County and third in the state of Texas, and the only Tarrant County zip on the most impoverished list on the state's top 25. That tells me they're going to get what they need, and every other kid will too. So I'm just interested in how you guys will continue to make sure those funding streams go to the highest acuity of need kids.
Yeah, appreciate that, President Jackson. I think what it connects to is our defined school performance framework. That really is what you're going to continue to hear us talking about as we provide supports to our campus. How are our campuses relating to the defined measurements that we consider to be a successful campus? We've jointly defined what is inside of our school performance framework, and that's where we tier our campuses. That's where we provide different supports from district and campus-based personnel and resources. What we're trying to do is bring that connection over to our campus improvement plans so that we have a priority. And when we're looking at different supports that are in place, campus improvement plans, how campuses are spending their title dollars to support instructional needs, we're tying it all back to that school performance framework. And that school performance framework is connected to the board goals that we have here. That's going to be our definition of campuses of greatest need.
Trustee Jackson, I think it's probably what we need to do as a team is bring back a refresher about the school performance framework. Sometimes we're living it and we're breathing it on a daily basis, but we haven't really brought it back to the trustees to remind what those buckets are. How do we weight those buckets? We actually had a great meeting yesterday around the school performance framework. And that's something we need to do with our principals as well, because we have new principals. We'll have new principals this year and new assistant principals. So it's really it'll be a good reset. So if with Dr. Scribner and President Ramos' permission, I would like to commit that, this late this spring, early summer, we'll bring back a refresher around the school performance framework for the trustees.
Well, Deputy Soup Molinar, it's never boring to me, but the other 8 may not be as happy as me, but I love that. And any data we can bring back and any reminders. Thank you all. This was a great presentation. The biggest thing that I continue to see as you guys are coalescing, you're gelled as a team, you each have your specific parts, but you know each other's parts too. And it's really neat to watch as a trustee and see you all work. So I want to say thank you, because I know how hard it is. And I made a text this for last Friday night to 2 people, and they said it doesn't matter. We work 24/7. I know you do, but please don't, because we need you here for a long time.
Thank you, Trustee Jackson. Next, we have Trustee Luevanos.
Thank you, President Ramos. Thank you for this in detail project presentation. I am happy to hear how we are going to work differently on the reading programs. And I'm happy to hear that we are going to do a different way of marketing our summer school. Trustee Perkins say, not only Facebook or social media or the internet, but also how to reach out to these people who are not on social media. Dr. Sines, on one of your slides, there was a program called a newcomer program. Can you be more specific on that one?
Actually, I'll plan to pass it over to Mr. Moore so you can give us some specifics on that.
Yeah, I'm glad to be more specific on that one for you. So, Mr. Luevanos, we actually have defined summer programming for our language acquisition students who are developing their English language skills. One of the programs that we do run is for our International Newcomer Academy student. One of the things we don't want to do is have students who are going through a school day and then have a gap in their learning opportunity. So we actually target the students that are within their first year of instruction here in the United States and provide summer programming for them. So the description there is just a continuation of that learning opportunity for that specific group of newcomer students.
I see, and I was so happy to see that we are investing, or we're having an RFP to get more programs in Spanish. So that made my day, because we've been asking for that for quite some time, and I'm happy to see that we're getting somewhere in that area. So summer program, can anybody attend summer school? although only for the students who are falling behind?
No, it's certainly not just for students that are falling behind. We want our students that need the enrichment, especially in elementary and middle school. If they want to attend summer school, we will look at that need as we go through each level. Certainly elementary, it'll be open to all students. Middle school, after we serve our students that have failed some courses, we'll see how many seats are there. And in high school, it is a little more focused on the students that have fallen behind. But there, like I mentioned, the other programs that are available, the whole summer melt program, the RE squared I, there's other programs that are available to our high school students to take that doesn't involve just remediation. And in fact, even if you think about credit recovery, we want to see that more as accelerating and staying on path versus just trying to, remediate as well. So, yes.
Thank you. So we can also market that that is not only for the students who need, but for everybody.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. I think those are all the questions or comments from my colleagues. All right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Scribner and your team. Appreciate the information, appreciate the presentation. We will now move on to consent agenda. As board president, I'm making the following statement in accordance with board policy BBFA local. This is a reminder to all board members of the legal conflict of interest requirements and disclosure requirements you may have for matters under consideration on the agenda for this meeting. If required by law, board members shall recuse themselves from all discussion and shall abstain from voting on any matter pertaining to such a disclosure. Are there any questions or comments concerning agenda items? I'm going to call on each trustee just to make sure. Begin with District 2 Trustee Toby Jackson. Any questions or comments on consent agenda? I don't see Trustee Jackson on here. We'll come back. District 3 Trustee Quentin Phillips.
No questions or comments at this time, sir.
Okay. District 4 Trustee Daphne Brookins.
No questions at this time.
Okay. District 5 Trustee CJ Evans.
Yes, it wasn't on the consent, it wasn't a consent agenda item per se, but something I read in L, the minutes from the Racial Equity Committee, made me think about our teacher pipeline retention and recruiting plans and efforts. Could I ask for a presentation or report from HCM on that issue?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Is that all, Trustee Evans? Okay. We'll come to District 6 Trustee Andar.
Thank you, President Ramos. On B2, we're looking at covering the cost of damage to an elevator. I believe it's at Eastern Hills High School. Is insurance covering any of the damage that we sustained in that storm?
Actually, yes, and I can turn it over to our CFO, Mr. Ball, in a moment. But I know at a previous meeting, Trustee Dar, Trustee Evans actually asked about our public adjuster, and we are very fortunate that we went ahead and the board approved that recommendation late last year, because we have recovered somewhere north of, or in the process of recovering somewhere north of $7 million, I think, in damages. If our CFO, Mr. Ball, could elaborate, please.
Thank you, Dr. Scribner. And yes, Trustee Dar, that's a great question. These first two items actually on here are related to the storm damage. And as Dr. Scribner said, we're grateful for the board's support in allowing us to engage the services of a public adjuster who really has added great value to identifying damage that would be eligible for reimbursement, both from our insurance carriers as well as FEMA. And so we are continuing to work with that firm. As Dr. Scribner said, as of the latest report, which I believe was as of Friday, the total identified damages are about $7.6 million. And we're in the process of filing those claims with our insurance company. And then obviously we have a deductible on our insurance policy, and then typically they will reduce the claim for depreciation, and then whatever they don't reimburse us for, we will submit that to FEMA. So that was a long-winded answer to just say, yes, ma'am, most of these costs will be reimbursed by either insurance or by FEMA.
Okay, thank you. And the B8, it mentions the state proclamation of 2021, but then in the board book, it's state proclamation of 2020. Is that one? Which one is it? And then also, is it an unfunded mandate?
Yeah. Thank you, Trustee Dar. Actually, there are two items. There is an action item to purchase instructional materials from the 2020 proclamation, which is our secondary, actually our high school ELA text. We postponed adopting new high school texts by 1 year. We did not want to ask our teachers to learn a new curriculum this year during pandemic, during the unknown time. So we're actually just now bringing the 2020 proclamation for high school ELA, which includes reading 1, 2, and 3, which includes English 1 through 4, and all of our AP ELA materials as well. The 2021 proclamation is actually our pre-K curriculum. We're actually proposing a new curriculum for our pre-K classrooms. All of these instructional materials or funding is provided through instructional materials allotment. We have engaged a group of teachers, as we do with any new instructional material adoption. And we've gone through an extensive vetting process to select the recommendation that we're providing to you this evening.
Thank you, that's all.
And next, we've got District 7 Trustee Norman Robbins.
Thank you, President Ramos. Would somebody update me? I know we're buying a bunch of books tonight, and they're very, very expensive. And I've always been a fan of electronic books that can be updated immediately. If they're incorrect, they can be changed immediately. We buy books, and if they're not correct, we have to use them for years and years and years. I mean, it's crazy. And I also know that the publishers don't want us to buy electronic books, but is there a possibility that someday we'll be able to buy electronic books and our kids can walk around with an iPad rather than 50 pounds worth of books in their backpack?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Robbins, your thinking is right on. This adoption actually comes along with the electronic resource as well. One of the things that we've learned through going through this process multiple times is it's more cost efficient for a district to purchase the physical textbook that comes along with an electronic resource than just to ask for the electronic resource.
Really?
Just the way funding goes with the publishing companies. Wow. So we're actually getting the benefit of having both. Okay. We will have the actual physical resource available, but every student will have new text loaded onto their Chromebook, and will be able to access any of the curriculum that is being adopted through electronic means.
I didn't realize that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it.
That's all I had.
Okay. Next, we have Trustee Ana Lebanon. Any questions or comments about consent agenda?
Thank you, President Ramos. Item I, approve a request for carryover of unused 2020-2021.
I can do it. Yes, so as we're going through our process of looking at our budget and trying to recover, our partners at the Leadership Academy Network also have some of those needs as well. And so this is just them asking that we have access to some of that carryover funds that they may have, so that they can meet their needs as well at those 6 campuses, five schools, 6 campuses. And so that's what that item needs. In order for us to do that, they have to bring it to board approval, and they have to bring it through this system in order to get that out. Oh, you have the only amount there. You have the amount. I was looking for the thing. I don't have it in front of me, but I can get that for you.
Trustee Lebanos, the amount of the carryover is $800,000. That's what's being recommended tonight.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Looks like those are all the questions or comments from the board on consent agenda. The time is 8:28 p.m. The date is Tuesday, April 27, 2021. We will now recess and reconvene virtually for executive session as authorized by Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code under Sections 551.071, .072, .074, and .076. Colleagues that are joining virtually, we'll see you on the other link.
Success starts early at Fort Worth ISD in a world of discovery for your young child. It's a world where amazing teachers engage students, grow their imaginations, and build foundations in reading, math, and social skills. That wonderful world is Fort Worth ISD pre-K and kindergarten. So be sure to register your child online because success starts here! Hello parents. A lot of planning is in the works right now, directly affecting your student. So we really need to hear from you. Please take just a few minutes to complete a family survey that will help us structure extended learning opportunities this summer as well as next school year. The survey will ask you, what kind of resources does your family need? What summer calendar options do you prefer? And what would it take for you to feel comfortable sending your students to school for in-person instruction? So right now or as soon as possible, go to fwisd.org/family survey. We need your answers. Thank you very much for your help.
(2021) 2021 marks the 50th anniversary of the Week of the Young Child, and we are just one of many school districts and communities around the country observing this important week. During this Week of the Young Child, Fort Worth ISD is reaching out to the community in multiple ways to make certain that every 4-year-old is enrolled in pre-K.
I feel it is important for my child to go to pre-K because I wanted him to have an opportunity to thrive and grow. I also wanted him to be able to gain social skills where he's amongst other kids. He's reading, he is able to write, so he is thriving and he'll be ready for kindergarten.
Fort Worth ISD is celebrating the Week of the Young Child with our pre-K and kindergarten teachers creating daily social media posts along with classroom themes. Today is Music Monday. Tasty Tuesday will be tomorrow. We Read Wednesday. Artsy Thursday, and of course, Family Friday. These fun activities will help children learn, help in the classroom, help promote home stability there for learning, emotional learning, create independent thinkers, help children become problem solvers, and help them develop a love of learning.
It's very important to get the students here early on to set that foundation and get them ready and prepared for the future years. I think it's really important for early childhood students to come and get socially acclimated as well as academically.
I started school and I saw my friends and I started getting more friends.
I love the age of the child that has so much wonder and everything is new for them.
I love teaching pre-K. What I like about it is the kids are so energetic, they're eager to learn, it's fun, and what I try to do to make sure it's exciting for them, I try to match their energy. So if they give me hype, I'm gonna give them hype. I'm gonna make it fun and entertaining as we're learning all at the same time.
Early childhood years lay the foundation for children's success in school and in life. Early learning is a vital beginning to a successful school year, and that is why we say success starts here in Fort Worth ISD.
Company employees often have opportunities to grow their positions with salaries to match. However, big compensation increases have remained out of reach for teachers until now, thanks to something in Texas House Bill 3 called the Teacher Incentive Allotment. The TIA was created to help school districts recruit, retain, and reward top teachers. And it just may be the best thing to happen to teachers since the Purity. The TIA is a path for highly effective teachers to significantly grow their compensation, no matter where they are in their career.
I'm in my second year of teaching. I've been teaching 15 years now.
Dry erase boards were all the rage when I started teaching.
The TIA centers on 3 designations. Recognized teachers can earn an extra $3,000 to $9,000 annually. Exemplary teachers, $6,000 to $18,000. And master teachers, an extra $12,000 to $32,000. For some master teachers, that can add up to a compensation of 6 figures. TIA opportunities are open to all teachers, and you don't even have to apply. The district starts the process. Fort Worth ISD evaluates teachers' T-TESS observations and student growth measures and sends the TEA a list of qualifying teachers. TEA and Texas Tech University review the list and approve and award designations. The state then sends money to the district for the allotments. And the designations last 5 years. How would you spend the extra cash?
Pay off my college loan.
Make a down payment on a new home.
It's going in that retirement travel bucket.
And to help that bucket grow even bigger, the teacher retirement system will include TIA compensation in calculating retirement benefits. Until now, teachers needing to increase their earnings had to leave the classroom for an administration position or another career. The TIA will keep many great teachers where their hearts and talents belong, in the classroom. Learn all about the teacher incentive allotment at www.fwisd.org/TIA.
Partner and Volunteer Appreciation Week is an important observance in Fort Worth ISD. That's because you, our thousands of partners and volunteers, are a critical part of the work we do. The theme is Recognize, Reconnect, and Reimagine. And so we want to recognize you, our parents and corporate volunteers, literacy partners, and faith-based organizations for your generosity, dedication, and drive year in and year out.
ISD back to school registration.
And this past year, when the health crisis hit, you outdid yourself. You turned on a dime and came out in force again and again, making sure our families had food and other basic resources. And now we hope to reconnect in person before long, stronger because of what we've been through, and eager to continue to reimagine and grow our work and prepare all students for college, career, and community leadership. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone being here today. One thing I love about the mural is when people pass by, it tells them, I need to look for my diversity awareness butterfly.
Our goal when we created this PTA was to build a sense of community and amplify the voices of children who receive special education services and their families.
Thank you, Mr. Velasquez, for your talents and the creation of this mural in a very, very loving and inclusive way. 2, 3.
I want people to see themselves in the art, because when you see yourself in art, you know, you find yourself, you see the value in yourself even more.
More and more families are coming out from the shadows, proudly showing off our beautiful children. No longer are parents content trying to hide or change their children to fit cultural norms. A mural like this recognizes that all children are welcome here.
I love what is perceived to be an imperfect hand, yet I would argue that it is perfect, just the way that it is made.
All children can fly as far and as high as is possible.
Congratulations on selecting Fort Worth ISD Pre-K or Kindergarten for your child. Let's get your new students signed up. First, create a new account by entering your name, email address, password, and security questions. Next, enter your child's name, date of birth, and you're ready to begin new student registration. This process will go quicker if you have a few things already on hand, including information about the last school your child attended, if any, the name, phone number, and address of any emergency contacts, and photos of the following 3 documents stored on your cell phone, tablet, or laptop: your child's birth certificate or another legal ID, immunization record, and proof of address, such as a utility bill or lease agreement. You'll be asked to upload the photos of the documents later. Make sure you can read the information on them. The good news is, at any step in the process, you can save what you've done so far and come back to it later. Another note, As you register, notice the required fields. They're marked. Be sure to enter them. You will not be able to complete the registration without the required information. And remember, the district will receive information the way it is entered, so it's important to spell, capitalize, and punctuate names and addresses correctly. Now, here are some of the categories and questions you can expect, starting with the school year you're registering for, and whether your child has attended a Fort Worth ISD school before. You'll need to enter your child's name and date of birth exactly as they appear on the birth certificate. Also, ethnicity and race, and home and mailing address. This will help you locate your child's zoned school. If the school shown on the map is not the correct or preferred school, a drop-down menu will allow you to choose another school and select the reason. However, your student's ability to go to another school will depend on whether space is available. You'll enter the main phone number and the home address and email of primary contacts, and you can designate emergency contacts, but you must include their phone numbers and home addresses. There will be a family survey section with questions about the student's health, family income, and languages spoken in the home. The form also asks if the student is a member of a military family or if the student is living in a temporary housing situation. Your answers to these questions and others will determine your student's eligibility for services. Your answers can also help the registration get processed sooner. The form includes a series of agreements and consent forms for parents, such as a student directory information release, a media release, the student code of conduct, and an agreement concerning the use of the district's technology equipment and systems. Now it's time to upload the documents we mentioned earlier. That is, the birth certificate or other acceptable identification, immunization record, and proof of address. If you've already saved photos of the documents to your device, simply choose Upload and select the photos from your camera roll, or press Upload and take a photo at this time. Finally, type your name as your signature, along with your relationship to the student. Then, review and submit the form, taking a few minutes to double-check spelling, capitalization, and punctuation. If you leave out a required field, you will automatically be directed back to it to fill in. And if you need extra help, call or text the Parent Info line at 817-500-0381 or email parentinfo@fwisd.org. Thank you for giving your child a great start to their education journey at Fort Worth ISD.
Started. In accordance with the open meetings law, the board opened a meeting at 5:30 p.m. in a private video conference with a quorum present, recessed, and reconvened open session virtually, adjourned regular session, convened executive session, adjourned executive session, and now reconvened open session at 8:59 p.m. in the public virtual video conference with a quorum present. Trustees who are present virtually are Trustee Toby Jackson. I don't see her here just yet. Virtually joining us as well as Trustee Andar and Trustee Daphne Brookins. The rest of my colleagues are here in person. We will move on to accepting consent agenda items. Do I have a motion accepting consent agenda items?
So moved.
We have a motion by Trustee Robbins. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Trustee Luevanos. I'm going to call each trustee just in case to make sure we don't have any discussion. Trustee Jackson been able to join us yet? I don't see her. Trustee Phillips? No discussion. Thank you. Trustee Brookins?
No discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Evans?
No discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Dar?
No discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Robbins?
No discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Luevanos?
No discussion.
Thank you. And I have no discussion to add, so we're going to move to vote. I'm going to call your names, trustees. Please say yes or no on accepting consent agenda. I'm still looking to see if Trustee Jackson joined. No, not here. Trustee Phillips? Yes. Trustee Brookins?
Yes.
Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Dar?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Robbins?
Yes.
Trustee Luevanos?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm Trustee Ramos, and I vote yes. Motion passes unanimously. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 0. 7, 4, and 0 against. We will move on to action. We do not have 13A. We do not have 13B. We are moving on to 14A. Discussion and possible action to withdraw proposed termination of the Chapter 21 term employment contract of a certain teacher. I believe Trustee Robbins has a motion for us.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, and Dr. Scribner, it's advice of council that the board vote to withdraw the proposed termination of teacher Edwin Valencia Cuervo's Chapter 21 contract previously approved by the board on March 23rd, 2021.
I move approval.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion by Trustee Robbins based on legal counsel. Do we have a second?
Second, Jackson.
Thank you. We have a second by Trustee Jackson. I'm going to call on each trustee just in case if we have any discussion. Trustee Jackson, any discussion?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips? No discussion. Thank you. Trustee Brookins?
No discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Evans?
No discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Dar?
No discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Robbins?
No discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Luevanos?
No discussion.
And I have no discussion. I'm going to call on each trustee. I ask that you say yes, no, or abstain. I'm going to begin with Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips? Yes. Thank you. Trustee Brookins?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Evans?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Dar?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Robbins?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Luevanos?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm Trustee Ramos, and I vote yes. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. Am I correct that that's all the agenda items we have for tonight, staff? Okay, so we are going to move to the final part of our night, which we are now up for comments from board members and Dr. Scribner. I'm going to call on everyone just in case to see if you have any comments or announcements. Trustee Jackson?
Just want to say congratulations to Diamond Hills soccer team. What a wonderful, wonderful spring we had because of their enthusiasm and their success. And I sure would like to see them go and talk to other high schools in the Fort Worth ISD and talk to them about what it felt like to do what they did. And I think they need a bus tour around 12 high schools.
Really cool. Thank you, Trustee Jackson. Trustee Phillips? Thank you, President Ramos. No comments at this time, sir. Okay. Trustee Brookins?
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Evans?
No comments.
Okay. Trustee Dar?
Okay, so I have to tag on to Trustee Jackson because I am still smiling over the whole Diamond Hill Jarvis thing. That was the highlight of my day. Seeing those kids and being able to celebrate their success. They need a bus tour in their pyramid. They need to be going to those elementary schools and talking to those kids about hard work and keeping your grades up so you can play soccer or baseball or be in band or join the choir or the theater or whatever. I think that's a great idea. That's all I have to say about that. But it was a highlight of the evening. So congratulations, guys. That is fantastic.
Thank you, Trustee Dar. Trustee Robbins?
The only thing I would add is on that bus tour, I hope that they would talk about the discipline that they had to have to get where they got. And it took years of hard work and preparation. And all our students need to be aware of any goodness that you get requires years of hard work and discipline and never, ever, ever giving up. So I think that's a wonderful idea. I hope they can do that. They're wonderful examples. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Robbins. Trustee Luevanos?
Thank you, President Ramos. I would like to second Mr. Ramos' comments and Ms. Jackson and Ms. Dar on how proud we are of Diamond Hill and how the community came together this year for Diamond Hill in this achievement. And I would also like to thank all the teachers who, besides their hard work on doing online learning and in person, that they also, some of them were on those committees to select the books for the next coming year. So out of their own time, they went out and reviewed these books. So my thanks to all of the teachers who were on those committees to review the upcoming textbooks. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Paz isn't here, so Dr. Scribner?
No comments at this time. Thank you very much.
All right. And I want to give gratitude to my colleagues, you all, and especially Vice President Toby Jackson for taking over the meeting and afforded me the opportunity to go watch the Diamond Hill soccer team play on a night that we had a board workshop. It meant the world to me to be able to be there for something that's special, and even more so to know that we've got a great team here that's working and obviously working to stay focused on student outcomes. And it's evident tonight's meeting, we logged a lot of minutes talking about student outcome and student achievement, and that's just phenomenal to see in 8 years how this board continues to grow, and that you all supported me in being able to go and witness history. I am forever grateful to each and every one of you, my colleagues and the staff, for having given me that opportunity. And it's a moment I will treasure with my youngest son, as he and I cheered them on. And I'll also note there were a lot of other coaches from other schools in the stands. It was really cool because as I heard from our athletic director, we want other districts to know that when you play against one of our schools, you play against all of us. And I love that mindset, that one Fort Worth mindset that's becoming evident more and more each day. And as Trustee Jackson said earlier, this synergy between the administrative team, the superintendent, and the board is pretty amazing and pretty powerful. So kudos to my colleagues and a ton of gratitude. I appreciate you more than words can say. My friends, that is it. We are done with our meeting. The time is 9:08 p.m. and this meeting is officially adjourned. Everyone be safe.